781. Unexpected, 8 gates, gate of wonder, open, Metkai roared, opening the 8 gates to the 7th. Blue steam billowed from his body, and his aura flared to an almost unbearable intensity. He stopped short of the 8th gate. The Gate of Death granted far more power than the first 7 combined, but it came with a guaranteed price. It would give him little time to act, and would be fatally costly if wasted. He needed to gauge 6 Paths Obito first, and make sure the Gate of Death would be used to maximum effect. The combined white light around them dissipated, revealing the merged Shinobi. Silver hair, a black mask over his face, and orange goggles hanging from his neck. "I don't see the point of Tenten wearing a mask," Obito muttered, peeled the mask off, and tossed it into the Kamui dimension. He wasn't used to masks. Because they had practiced combination a lot, the two could now share a single body without full soul fusion. They retained both consciousnesses and all the combined abilities. "And I don't get why Tenten needs goggles," Kakashi snapped, snatching control of the body, hurling the goggles into the Kamui dimension, then turning to Guy. "Guy, before you open the final gate, we should be the main attackers. We'll gather intel," Kakashi said. Might Guy nodded. It made sense. The combined shinobi could probe and engage while Guy waited for the decisive moment. The divine tree's branches burst from the ground, snaking toward the allied shinobi to leech their chakra. The stronger the target, the thicker the branches. A dozen thick limbs attacked from all directions around Kakashi and Obito. Leaf hand blade. Guy focused chakra into his palm and struck, severing a branch, but it quickly regrew. "Don't get close to those branches. Let me handle it." Kakashi ordered everyone back and plunged into the tangle. The branches were like wood release, designed to absorb chakra on contact. They swarmed him, trying to drain him, but they couldn't truly touch his body. Kakashi had mastered Limitless. No matter how they tried, the branches couldn't make real contact. "You're getting good, Obito," Kakashi said as natural energy pooled in his body. He activated his Sage state, the Lightning Sage mode, an advantage of keeping both minds in a shared body. One consciousness could absorb and refine natural energy while the other fought. That meant his Sage form had no strict time limit. As long as he had chakra, he could maintain it. He sliced through the branches with a Sage-enhanced lightning blade, then drew Enma and unleashed dozens of slashes that shredded the wood. "Don't slack off," he told Obito. Their plan was clear. Obito would control the body for offense, and Kakashi would analyze 6 Paths Obito's abilities and absorb natural energy. "Quick, go to Naruto. He's in trouble. Too much chakra on him," Kakashi warned and handed control back to Obito. Naruto was buried under a writhing mass of divine tree branches, struggling to keep Ninetales' chakra mode. Obito moved at once, surging Sage Lightning into 2 Flying Thunder God kunai and hurling them. The kunai, enhanced by Sage chakra, flew through branch after branch and arrived at Naruto's side. Obito flashed, grabbed the exhausted boy, and teleported him to the safety of Rin and the others. "This kid really handles my ninjutsu well," Tobirama Senju said approvingly as he moved to help. Tobirama studied the merged shinobi and realized the fusion earring's power was extraordinary. If he were alive, he'd try every way to research it. Obito smiled at Naruto. "Rest for a bit. I'll go handle that bastard." Tobirama shook his head. "You alone? That's optimistic. He's not your match." "No, I'm not alone," Obito grinned. "Guy and Shisui are here. Naruto will get back up when he recovers. And Big Sasuke," Obito added at the sight of Sasuke arriving. "My name is Sasuke," Sasuke corrected coldly. Big Sasuke," Obito repeated with a smug nod. Sasuke clenched his fist without changing expression. "Let's leave Flying Thunder God marks on each other, so we keen, and swap positions in a pinch," Tobirama suggested. Even a legendary like him needed the technique's mobility to be useful against 6 Paths level threats. "All right, clone uncle." Obito marked Tobirama, who wondered privately why everyone was suddenly calling him strange nicknames. "Why don't you understand? I cannot be defeated now," 6 Paths Obito said, frowning as Kaka Obito and Guy charged. Though his appearance had changed, he recognized this as another Obito. "Wouldn't you be better off going back to your world? Is it really worth seeking death?" 6 Paths Obito said, contemptuous. He had the 10 tails under his control. He could have ended them long ago, but he'd avoided pointless slaughter. "Seeking death? Try if you can kill me," Obito shot back. I promised Naruto I'd help him. I won't back out. You're calling peace through genjutsu a coward's way out? Six Paths Obito's eyes chilled. I've been working on infinite Tsukuyomi for more than a decade. A terrifying chakra burst from him. He flashed away in a blaze of power, too fast for Obito's Mangekyo to track. Obito activated Transparent World just to sense him. Six Paths Obito reappeared beside Obito and threw a fist at his cheek. The punch halted 2 centimeters before contact, baffling Six Paths Obito. Limitless, kid, Obito realized. Sage Art, Blue Flame Rasengan. Obito formed a huge blue orb of burning chakra in his palm and slammed it forward. A nearby truth-seeking ball warped into a massive shield and took the blow, cracking but holding. Obito reeled back, stunned. The Blue Flame Rasengan was a terrifying Sage Art. 7 chakra natures blended into a compact, explosive sphere, but the truth-seeking ball was nearly impervious. That black orb isn't just hard, Kakashi commented quietly, already recalculating tactics. It has 7 chakra nature transformations. Ordinary shinobi would die just touching it. Guy thundered up behind them, slamming his hands and firing a tiger-shaped air cannon. Noon Tiger! Six Paths Obito snorted and dispersed the attack with his Rokudo Shakujo. Guy, stay back! Shisui, protect yourselves. This is too dangerous. After a single exchange, the allied group knew they had underestimated him. A golden flash marked Naruto's arrival. Brother Obito's right, Naruto said, panting. Even Tobirama was only effectively support because of the Flying Thunder God technique. Obito glanced enviously at Naruto. Nine Tails refines chakra so fast. No, it's from Dad, Naruto said, scratching his head. Minato had half of the 9 tails inside him too. The 2 foxes could transfer chakra between them. Sasuke, don't waste time with chatter. Take that bastard down, Kakashi said. Sasuke and Susanoo had an idea. Ordinary Susanoo attacks were useless against Six Paths level bodies, but Jugo could absorb natural energy. If he joined, Susanoo might be converted into a Sage Art Susanoo, turning its blows into sage attacks. Big Sasuke looks even cooler than Kakashi, Obito crowed. Right? I've thought that since Ninja Academy, Naruto agreed earnestly. Sasuke inwardly wished the enemy weren't right in front of him so he could respond with a glare. Kakashi, focused on absorbing natural energy, made a quiet mental note he'd settle things with Obito after the war. Sasuke drove a Sage Art Susanoo slash. Six Paths Obito dodged easily. Sasuke knocked a Susanoo arrow and fired. Naruto rushed forward with a colossal sage-enhanced Rasengan. Meaningless struggle, Six Paths Obito muttered. He formed a shield from one truth-seeking ball to block Naruto and reshaped another into a giant black arm that grabbed Sasuke. Sasuke! Naruto shouted, surging chakra only to be blocked. Kamui! Obito's eye chakra flared. The spatial distortion sheared the black arm apart and freed Sasuke. Kakashi's surprise flipped into a plan. Use distorted Kamui directly on bastard Obito, he told Obito. Obito understood instantly. He focused Kamui on Six Paths, Obito's head in warped space. Six Paths Obito flashed away. His eyes had seen chakra gathering. In Obito, Kakashi dared to hope. Bastard Obito might not be able to use Kamui right now. That was the real danger. Six Paths Obito's Kamui. If Six Paths Obito could phase himself, Guy's 8 gates output could be negated. Only Obito could enter the Kamui dimension to engage him. 2 users of Kamui reduced its effectiveness when they clashed. Phasing and distorted Kamui could cancel each other out. With dual Kamui, Obito might force a suppression, but it would bleed chakra and eye power, only worth it if decisive. Was he discovered? Six Paths Obito stared at Obito's gaze. Since becoming the 10 Tails Jinchuriki, he'd lost access to his Mangekyo abilities in the way he once knew them. He knew how dangerous Kamui was. One eye could eclipse some Mangekyo techniques, so he decided to end the fight at once before their advantage grew. We can't give them time to adapt, Kakashi urged. Six Paths Obito went all out. He clasped his hands and unleashed 8 truth-seeking balls in a single, simultaneous barrage, leaving only 2 balls at his sides for defense. Of the 8 truth-seeking balls, 2 shot toward Sasuke, while the other 6 split evenly between Naruto and Obito. Sage Art, Wind Release, Great Ball Rasen Shuriken. 3 truth-seeking balls bore down on Naruto. He couldn't afford to be careless. He poured a huge amount of Sage Chakra into a Rasen Shuriken and moved fast. If only 1 truth-seeking ball had been coming, he could have handled it, but 3 at once left him a little overwhelmed. They're too fast to lock onto. Obito had wanted to use Kamui to pull Naruto and Sasuke out of danger, but from a distance he found it difficult to absorb those high-speed spheres. Boom! Just as Naruto's Sage Art Rasen Shuriken was about to strike one of the truth-seeking balls, one of the black orbs suddenly expanded. A violent explosion swallowed the Rasen Shuriken, and the truth-seeking ball snapped back behind Six Paths Obito. The remaining two truth-seeking balls veered toward Naruto from opposite directions. Faint lights on their surfaces marked them as about to detonate. Whoosh! A kunai wrapped in lightning appeared at Naruto's side. "Uncle Clone, I need your help!" Obito flashed to Naruto with the Flying Thunder God technique and shouted. His Limitless could only protect himself, and with the truth-seeking balls arriving so fast, he couldn't hope to pull Naruto into Kamui in time. Don't underestimate the second Hokage. Flying Thunder God, mutual instantaneous rotation technique. Senju Tobirama and Obito activated the Flying Thunder God at the same moment and swapped places. Naruto and Obito were moved to safety. Senju Tobirama appeared in the center of the truth-seeking ball's blast. Rumble. Blinding white light ripped through the area and obliterated Tobirama's body. As an impure world reincarnation, he recovered rapidly, but the destruction still left him at a severe disadvantage. "Troublesome old man," Six Paths Obito muttered, forming one of his truth-seeking balls into a black Rokudo Shakujo and sending it at Tobirama. The explosion that had struck Tobirama wasn't a yin-yang release technique, so his body could still regenerate, but because his body was completely destroyed, his recovery would be slow, and he couldn't dodge the incoming staff. Tobirama looked at the advancing black Shakujo with a calm, almost resigned expression. Konoha had been founded to protect the younger generation. If this sacrifice kept Uzumaki, Naruto, and Obito alive, it would be another fulfillment of the will of fire his elder brother had cherished. Whoosh! Obito appeared beside Tobirama and reached out, his hand stopping the black Rokudo Shakujo a centimeter from his chest. He can even block a truth-seeking ball. Six Paths Obito stared in surprise. A truth-seeking ball could break straight through ordinary limitless defenses. Even Sasuke's Susanoo couldn't withstand a single direct hit. Yet Obito stood there, stopping the black staff dead. "Stunned, aren't you? This isn't ordinary limitless, it's Sage Art Limitless," Obito said with a triumphant grin. Ordinary limitless could be pierced by a truth-seeking ball. Limitless enhanced by Sage Chakra was far harder to break. If Kakamon was a stats monster among fused shinobi, then Kaka Obito, who combined Flying Thunder God, Kamui, and Limitless, was a mechanical monster. He didn't need to dodge when he could simply protect someone else. Seeing Obito confidently block the attack, Senju Tobirama could almost see the overlapping silhouettes of his elder brother and Uchiha Madara in the young man's stance. "What if you can block my attacks? The others can't." Six Paths Obito sneered and pointed toward Sasuke and Jugo, both lying grievously wounded. He had aimed much of his assault at Obito and Naruto, but his true target had been the weakest, Sasuke. While Naruto and Obito were occupied with the truth-seeking balls, Sasuke had been severely injured. "You bastard!" Naruto sprinted up and erupted with fury when he saw Sasuke's condition. The golden chakra around him flared brighter. He formed a Rasengan and readied to strike. Six Paths Obito. "Big brother Naruto, don't be impulsive. He's trying to provoke you into losing your composure and exposing more weaknesses." Obito reached out and restrained Naruto. Six Paths Obito's power was overwhelming. Unless he courted death himself, the two of them alone couldn't beat him. "That's right, Naruto. Stay calm." Senju Tobirama looked at Obito with growing approval. Obito had Naruto's passion and kindness, but wasn't as reckless. He thought before acting. "Let me do it. I'll use the Rasen Flash Super Round Dance Howl 3 to draw Obito's attention. Naruto and little Obito, you two will be the main attackers." Minato Namikaze flashed forward and spoke seriously. He had given most of his chakra to Naruto earlier and had recovered only a little. "Of course, Minato-sensei's naming sense is hopeless," Obito grumbled at the ridiculous jutsu name. "You're clear? Fourth Hokage, you really want to use that move, but you've already lost an arm. Be cautious," Kakashi added with a twitch. As Obito, Minato, Naruto, and Tobirama exchanged barbs, Six Paths Obito tightened his grip on the Rokudo Shakujo. "You lot are naive. Those ninja from another world. They're not from another village or country. They're from another world entirely, he said, loud enough for many of the allied shinobi forces to hear. Has a millennium of war taught you nothing? You don't honestly think strangers from another world will help you selflessly, do you? What I want is peace through the infinite Tsukuyomi. They might want to plunder the whole world. Six Paths Obito deliberately amplified his voice, and his words struck a chord. A few shinobi glanced suspiciously at Shisui and the others. From experience, people coveted and feared what they didn't control. Multiplied across an entire world, that distrust became easier to believe. Still, none of them could immediately turn on Shisui and his group. They'd been comrades for 2 days of battle. That evil Uchiha brat is good at manipulating hearts, Senju Tobirama muttered, but he himself wasn't swayed. The parallel world shinobi they'd met so far hadn't come with hostile intentions, especially not Obito. Stop spouting nonsense. You, a scoundrel who incites war, will never understand the greatness of Big Brother Mu Yue, Naruto shot back, furious at Six Paths Obito's malicious slander of Obito and Mu Yue. You don't even deserve the name Uchiha Obito. Compared to Brother Obito, you're not even human. From the command center, Narada Shikaku had already explained the parallel world ninjas' help to the allied shinobi forces. On the coastal front, Jiraiya, Orochimaru, and Kakuzu had annihilated over 90% of the enemy there, saving thousands more allied shinobi. Sasori had sealed many powerful foes, which prevented countless other sacrifices. Nara Shikaku estimated that the combined contributions of the parallel world ninja had spared at least 10,000 allied shinobi from death, and that number was still rising as Obito and his comrades fought the most dangerous enemy. The skeptical looks toward Shisui and the others vanished. Their shame was obvious. Obito and his group had undeniably saved countless lives. He's more qualified to be called Uchiha Obito than me? Six Paths Obito's face contorted with fury and bitter laughter. Now that he had become the second Six Paths sage, names and past grievances meant little to him. This despairing world had already lost its value. But Naruto suggesting he was inferior to Obito was something he couldn't accept. Ha ha! How laughable! How can some greenhouse child compare to me, who has become the second Six Paths sage? Six Paths Obito laughed and jeered, clutching his black staff as if that title made him untouchable. Naruto's right, he does resemble Uchiha Obito more than you do, Kakashi said in a low voice. To Kakashi, the parallel world Obito was the image of his hero grown up, a fact that made his coordination with Obito feel natural. Three wastes united are nothing but a rabble, Six Paths Obito spat. He slammed, at his palm forward, and fired 3 truth-seeking balls at the trio. Senju Tobirama and Obito again activated the Flying Thunder God technique. Tobirama hauled Minato and Naruto out of the blast radius, while Obito teleported beside Kakashi. Even Kakashi's single-eye Kamui and the fused body's double Manjikyo had difficulty locking onto the speeding truth-seeking balls. Big Kakashi, move farther away so you don't get caught in the blast, Obito shouted urgently. Seeing the fused ninja who displayed both Obito and Kakashi's features, Kakashi hesitated for a heartbeat, then gathered chakra and moved. Kakashi, why don't we try that move? Even the blue flame Rasengan can create cracks. That cross-force should break the Black Sphere's defense, Obito urged. In their fusion training, they had found an odd compatibility between blue flame and high-intensity lightning release. When blended, the two produced a coexisting cross-force of lightning and fire far more terrifying than the blue flame alone. It was difficult to master. Even Kaka Obito struggled with control, but their practice had produced the blue flame Rasengan as a byproduct. No, that move isn't perfected and it consumes too much chakra. If it fails, the consequences for the battle plan would be huge, Kakashi rejected. The cross-force was unstable. Kakashi preferred a more reliable approach than gambling on an unproven technique. Bang! More truth-seeking balls slammed into the ground, carving a vast crater. Six Paths Obito concentrated his assault on Obito alone, unleashing wave after wave of devastating attacks. Faced with this, Obito didn't keep relying on Limitless as a shield. He activated Kamui and phased to avoid the worst. Sage Art Limitless could not hold indefinitely. Against such a fierce onslaught, the chakra disparity might overwhelm it. That's enough. Tell Metkai to come in. Kakashi scanned Six Paths Obito's capabilities in his mind and refined the plan. Before committing, he needed to know exactly how powerful Might Guy would be if he opened all 8 gates. Since the founding of the Shinobi villages, no one had ever fully mastered and entered the 8 gates formation, so Kakashi could only make educated guesses. It's finally time for the red beast to appear. Might Guy laughed as he charged toward Obito, eager for battle. 8 gates. 8th gate. Gate of Death. Open. Might Guy drew deep on his chakra, roared, and flung open the final gate he had never opened before. Boom! The instant Might Guy stepped into the 8 gates formation, chakra surged through him, and the ground, unable to bear the torrent of power, cracked apart. Bloody steam began to rise from his body, and his aura climbed to a terrifying pitch. Teacher Kai. Kakashi stared at Guy in stunned disbelief. That red steam could only mean one thing, the Gate of Death, the final gate of the 8 gates. He didn't know about Shisui's eye technique, so he couldn't fathom why Might Guy would open the Gate of Death, an act that meant certain death. His youth has reached its climax, Might Guy said with reverence. If his body had been fit enough, Kakashi thought, he would have opened the 7th gate to fight alongside him, even if he consciously avoided the Gate of Death. 8 gates inflicted terrible harm on the body. Even with his strong constitution, he would have needed time to recover after using the 7th gate. Teacher Kai can actually open the Gate of Death now. Lee clenched his fists, eyes wide with awe at Guy's overwhelming strength and his willingness to risk everything. In his shock, he instinctively opened the 6th gate. It was insignificant compared to Guy's 8 gates, but it was Lee's best. If he could, he wanted to help. The 8 gates formation. This is our chance. Tobirama watched with narrowed eyes, hand on a flying thunder god kunai, ready to teleport in support at a moment's notice. He understood how catastrophic the power boost could be when all 8 gates opened. A dead man from another world, huh? His chakra is decent, but his life force is like a candle in the wind. Nothing to fear. 6 paths. Obito looked at Might Guy's chakra, but paid it little mind, keeping his focus on the battlefield. Obito's chakra wasn't as potent as Guy's or Naruto's, but he was the hardest to deal with. As for Might Guy, who had opened the 8 gates, 6 paths, Obito didn't need to make many moves. He figured Guy would burn himself out defending and die on his own. Go! Let that bastard Obito see the power of comrades cooperating. Kakashi ordered in the mental space. Obito nodded and formed a blue flame Rasengan, charging at 6 paths Obito. Whoosh! 6 paths Obito waved a hand. 4 truth-seeking balls sped toward Obito from different angles. Boom! They passed through Obito's body and slammed into the earth, leaving massive craters. Might Guy suddenly leaped. His whole body erupted with chakra, wrapped in a dark, armament-like aura. Evening Elephant, first step. He slammed out a blackened fist. The force alone blew trees aside. The air around his strike condensed into a single point and then detonated into a massive elephant foot air cannon aimed straight at 6 paths Obito. 6 paths Obito didn't even look. He used a truth-seeking ball to form a spherical shield around himself. The ball stayed intact, but the power fissured the ground around it. Second step. Might Guy flashed to a new position with a speed even a Manjikyu Sharingan would struggle to follow and threw another punch. He couldn't pierce the truth-seeking balls alone. His teammates would have to handle that. Kamui. Obito's eye chakra erupted. Space twisted. Part of the black sphere on Might Guy's side vanished. But surprisingly, inside that vanished space, there remained a backup shield composed of truth-seeking balls. 6 paths Obito had anticipated Kamui and prepared contingencies. If Obito teleported an attack at the sphere's edge, he'd reinforce it. If the attack hit the center, he'd dodge. Third step. Guy didn't pause. Once Evening Elephant started, he couldn't stop without losing momentum. Pain seared through him. His bones already felt like they were breaking, but his will forced him onward. With each strike, he could feel his body deteriorating from the strain the 8 gates imposed. Fourth step. The speed grew terrifying. So fast, Obito didn't have time to cast Kamui again. But still, the truth-seeking ball held. At that moment, Tobirama appeared above 6 paths Obito with Naruto and Minato Namikaze. He'd been watching for the best moment to strike. Sage Art, Wind Release Super Big Ball Rasen Shuriken. Naruto and Minato had both entered Tailed Beast Chakra mode. Minato supplied chakra to amplify the jutsu, while Naruto added natural energy, turning it into a sage art wind technique. The giant Rasen shuriken slammed into the black truth-seeking ball, spiderwebbing cracks across it and shattering it. Tobirama wasn't pleased by the destruction. Beneath the black sphere there was still another shield of truth-seeking balls. Kamui, Obito tried again. A distortion unmade the shield's inner defenses. Tobirama's mouth curved into a small smile. The Uchiha had cooperated exactly as expected. Fifth step. Guy surged at blinding speed and unleashed Evening Elephant's final punch. Damn, he's that fast! Six Paths Obito's face went grim. He tried to evade, but against Eight Gates Guy's extreme speed, he couldn't respond in time. He took the blow head-on. Crack! The shield transformed by the truth-seeking balls shattered. The force carved a trench into the earth and hurled Six Paths Obito backward until he slammed into the god tree. When he staggered to his feet, he spat blood, face clouded with anger. The Ten-Tails Jinchuriki was resilient. These weren't fatal wounds, but the humiliation stung. Someone he'd dismissed had left him reeling. He remembered being beaten by Might Guy before, back when he failed the chuunin exams, and a bitter thought flickered through him. Now that I've become the second Six Paths Sage, none of that matters. No one can defeat me. He gripped his black staff to steady himself, pushing the memory away. As expected, it still takes actual combat. Guy and that bastard Obito are a bit different than predicted. Kakashi frowned. Might Guy's Gate of Death strength had outstripped his expectations, but so had Six Paths Obito's durability. The truth-seeking balls had been shattered, yet the Jinchuriki only coughed up blood. If it had been Kaka Obito without Kamui or Limitless, he might have been pulverized. Even the 8 gates aren't enough? Do we really just stall for Mu Yue to arrive? Tobirama's brow knitted. Obito and the others had praised Mu Yue's strength. Tobirama believed them. But that she could surpass Six Paths Obito? He was skeptical. Tobirama still held Hashirama Senju, his elder brother, as the pinnacle of Shinobi. Six Paths Obito's might came from borrowing the Ten-Tails' power. Truly astonishing to even withstand the fifth step, but only an opponent like this deserves the 8 gates formation. Might Guy's aura swelled. He still had one move left, the true killing blow, the culmination of years of taijutsu study with Mu Yue. He burned through the rest of his life force. The blood aura thickened, his body blazed like a red sun in a dark sky. Chakra poured from him until his flesh reddened and his skin began to crack, revealing necrotic tissue beneath. Pain racked him, but he fed life force into chakra and recalled every taijutsu Mu Yue had taught him, from the basic spinning kick leaf whirlwind to the leaf handblade, and finally the ultimate technique, golden skyline. Guy set his index and middle fingers together, planted his feet, twisted slightly to the right, and placed his right arm behind his waist. His blood aura and chakra peaked, and a blood-red dragon's head of swirling aura and chakra manifested on his body with a roar that shook the battlefield. The ground trembled, cracks spidered outward as gusts of dust and rock fragments flew every which way. This move, I prepared it specifically for Kakashi. Might Guy's mouth curved briefly, and then he unleashed everything. Night Guy. Might Guy exploded forward as a streak of red light. Against his speed, space itself seemed to stiffen. Even time appeared to slow. Six Paths Obito tried to fly upward to escape, but 2-tailed beast transformed Nine-Tails forms and 2 Susanoo tore through the sky to knock him back down. Trying to dodge? It's not that simple, Tobirama snorted. While the chaos unfolded, Rin Nohara had quietly sent Katsuyu to the battle. He injured Sasuke, using medical ninjutsu to treat him. Six Paths Obito's expression changed as he watched the space around Guy warp. Space, it's distorted. He stared in horror. This man was distorting space with sheer chakra. At such a distance and with that speed, Six Paths Obito had no time to strike. He could only activate a defensive wall of truth-seeking balls. He knew it wouldn't truly stop the incoming strike. It would mainly be used to force Kakashi and Obito to expend their eye techniques, which were draining without Hashirama's cells to stabilize them. Endure it. The final victor will be me, he muttered and deployed the defense. Kamui! Kakashi shot a glare at the defensive truth-seeking ball and twisted it, carving a void in space. Golden Horizon! In an instant, Guy's final attack slammed into Six Paths Obito. Crack! Crack! The force pulverized bones, Guy's fingers suffered comminuted fractures, and his arm's bones splintered. The spot where the blow landed turned into a spray of blood and mist. Every bone in Six Paths Obito's body took damage. He stared at Guy in disbelief. Night Guy, Golden Horizon had done more than he expected. His Six Paths enhanced body couldn't fully withstand it. For a moment he felt a loss of control, as if he'd been crushed by a giant rock all over again. Rumble. Six Paths. Obito was sent flying like a cannonball, carving a massive crater around the god tree. Might Guy's right arm fell limp. He collapsed, his body charred black as if burned by flame. His life force had burned down to the last breath. He couldn't even muster a smile. He didn't need others to finish him. Shisui's eye technique would automatically trigger in 30 seconds. The last of his will held. This move, I don't think even Sage Art Limitless could defend against it. Obito gasped, awed at the terror of the 8 gates. If space itself is distorted, then Limitless wouldn't work. Kakashi nodded grimly. Limitless prevented attacks from touching the user, but if space itself were warped, its effect could be bypassed. No wonder Guy had said the move was prepared specifically for him. Check if he's dead. If there's a body, finish him with a blow to the head. Obito still burned with grudges against Six Paths Obito's taunts. He teleported forward, intent on ending it once and for all. You can't kill a Ten-Tails Jinchuriki with a single blow. Go! Free the tailed beast from his body. Nine-Tails, who understood the Ten-Tails, ordered Naruto forward. Killing the Ten-Tails and its Jinchuriki outright was nearly impossible. The only practical option was to separate the beast from its host. No text for this chapter. Let's proceed to the next chapter. After sending Sasuke flying, Uchiha Madara stopped paying attention to him and instead surged toward Nagato, who was rushing to Senju Hashirama's side. Nagato saw one Limbo, border jail clone, charging at him, but it moved too fast. There was no time to dodge. He unleashed Shinra Tensei, only to find the clone unaffected. It wasn't repelled or staggered. It simply flashed past. Nagato clapped his hand over his left eye. The instant the clone struck, his left eye had been gouged out. Nagato, what happened to you? Shisui called as he appeared. From his perspective, he couldn't see any Limbo clone. First Sasuke had inexplicably been hurled away, and now Nagato had been hit. You can't see it? Nagato answered solemnly as he used Yang Release to heal his wound. Another Uchiha Madara rushed over and stole my eye. He pointed at the black rod lodged behind Hashirama and used Almighty Pull to yank it free. The rod had been imbued with Outer Path Demonic Statue Jutsu, so it couldn't be handled casually. Another Uchiha Madara? Shisui frowned. His Mangekyo Sharingan could not perceive it, and even his Kenbunshoku gave no warning. Hysterical laughter cut through the field. Ha! I really have you to thank. You helped me gather a pair of Rinnegans so quickly. Uchiha Madara pressed Nagato's Rinnegan into his own empty socket and in an instant completed the transplant. Only 2 people in the world had truly awakened the Rinnegan, the Sage of Six Paths and Madara himself. The Rinnegan Nagato had here could only be the other Madaras. When White Zetsu had brought only one Rinnegan, Madara's plan was clear. Gather both eyes, then become the Ten-Tails Jinchuriki. Whether Sharingan or Rinnegan, their true power was unlocked when both eyes were together. Madara, don't pick on a child. If you've got something, come at me, Hashirama said, rising to his feet. I'm not bullying anyone. Those were my eyes to begin with, Madara mocked. He laughed. Since his other self had failed to finish the plan, it made sense for him to take what that self had left behind. Hashirama, you'll have to wait if you want a proper fight. Right now, I need to deal with these beasts. He formed the hand signs and invoked Limbo, Border Jail. The single Limbo clone turned into 4, and they streaked toward the tailed beasts. Watch out! Nagato shouted, but even his warning came too late. Because the Limbo clones moved with such speed and were effectively invisible, by the time he cried out, the 7-tailed beasts and the fully transformed Naruto and Killer Bee were already knocked down. Come here, Madara barked. He had already summoned the Outer Path demonic statue while the Limbo clone had attacked Sasuke and Nagato, and now the statue spat out countless chains to bind the tailed beasts. Madara had waited long enough. He wanted to become the Ten-Tails Jinchuriki immediately. I'll start with you. He focused on Naruto. In less than a second, Kurama was being pulled out of Naruto's body. Among everyone present, Madara feared 2 people and one tool. The tool were the fusion earrings, their power he'd experienced before. The two people were Hashirama and Naruto. Even at full strength, against Hashirama, Naruto, and a fused shinobi simultaneously, he couldn't guarantee victory. Unsure who actually had the earrings, and knowing Hashirama was an impure world reincarnation he couldn't kill, Madara targeted Naruto. With the Rinnegan, he could easily strip a Jinchuriki of their beast. A Jinchuriki usually died the moment their tailed beast was extracted. Kamui! Obito reacted instinctively and warped toward the statue's head, trying to intercept. A force from nowhere slammed into him, sending him flying and interrupting the technique. Madara sneered. He had stolen Nagato's Rinnegan, partly to guard against Obito's Kamui, and had assigned a Limbo clone specifically to watch Obito. As Kurama was pulled free, Naruto's expression went blank. He seemed to lose his soul and his body sagged. Kakashi activated Lightning Chakra, flashed over, and caught him. It was Katsuyu, summoned by Rin Nohara, which wrapped Naruto in a dense green healing light, but his face remained pale. Take Naruto to Minato Namikaze. He still has the other half of me inside him. Kurama's voice, freed, urged them. Ordinary Jinchuriki die immediately when their beast is extracted, but Naruto's Uzumaki vitality allowed him to hold on a bit longer. Your vitality is tenacious, but all the tailed beasts are mine, Madara proclaimed, manipulating the statue to begin absorbing Ichibi and sending a Limbo clone toward Naruto. Even Hashirama's large-scale wood release couldn't stop that invisible threat. Kakashi, hurry! Obito said, eyes flicking to Sasuke, who was trying to rise beside him. An idea struck. Naruto had not been able to use the fusion earrings earlier because Kurama's consciousness had been inside him. With Kurama pulled out, maybe he could. Obito quickly hung one earring on Sasuke and pushed most of the Kurama chakra from his own body into Sasuke. He couldn't be sure it would work on a gravely injured Naruto, but there was no time to wait. Kakashi understood instantly. He took an earring from his pouch, placed it on Naruto, and transmitted Kurama chakra from himself into Naruto. Sasuke and Naruto were drawn together uncontrollably. A blinding white light enveloped them. When it faded, a pale-faced blond man stood there in a composed stance. He actually has the Rinnegan. What happened? Kakashi exclaimed, staring at the man's purple eyes in surprise. Neither Naruto nor Sasuke had ever possessed the Rinnegan. Why had the fusion awakened it? We won the gamble, Obito breathed, letting out a small, relieved sigh. With the fused shinobi's strength, Naruto was temporarily out of mortal danger. Naruto Sasuke, because the fusion was unmistakable, looked at the 5 Madaras on the field and understood in an instant what had happened. Even the Rinnegan appeared. Who made those tools? Madara's eyelids twitched. He hadn't expected the fusion earring's effect to be so transcendent, to actually produce Rinnegan in the fusion just as he had done through years of sacrifice. Back then, he had taken Hashirama's cells and waited until old age to awaken the Rinnegan. These earrings did it in an instant. These earrings, could they be the Sage of Six Paths' treasured tools? Madara wondered, shocked. Then he smirked. However, even the Rinnegan is useless. He raised his hand. The Outer Path demonic statue had absorbed all the tailed beasts. 6 paths, 10 tails coffin seal. Madara formed the seals and absorbed the 10 tails. His black hair turned white, a white robe appeared, 9 truth-seeking balls rotated behind him, and a black Rokudo Shakujo materialized in his hand. Now I possess the power of the 6 paths. Naruto Sasuke had only just gained the Rinnegan, but he also now faced Madara wielding both the 6 paths power and Rinnegan. Naruto Sasuke smiled coldly. Useless? Is that so? He charged. Multiple shadow clone jutsu. Seeing a Limbo clone rushing at him, he split into 8 shadow clones to entangle them and continued toward Madara. His clones were not as potent as Madara's Limbo, but they could buy time. Madara narrowed his eyes, gripping his shakujo. The chakra coming from Naruto Sasuke was unusual. This chakra is peculiar, he murmured, then casually threw out a few truth-seeking balls and unleashed a 6-path Sage Art to disrupt the field. Sage Art, Blazing Lightning Rasengan. Naruto Sasuke formed a Rasengan in his right hand and summoned lightning with his left, merging them into a single sphere crackling with black lightning. Madara raised a truth-seeking ball to strike, but Naruto Sasuke's Rinnegan vibrated. Ameneteji Kara. He used the Rinnegan to bend space, and suddenly Naruto Sasuke holding the Black Lightning Rasengan appeared in front of Madara. Bang! Crackle! The blow smashed into Madara's shoulder and a numbness spread through him. Madara reeled. Why had he been transported, and why couldn't he absorb this ninjutsu? He ordered the surrounding truth-seeking balls of fire and forced Naruto Sasuke back. Limbo clones wiped out Naruto Sasuke's shadow clones, and Madara controlled one limbo clone to pin Naruto Sasuke while he retreated to recover. Wood human technique. Hashirama activated a massive wooden hand that snatched at Madara. A truth-seeking ball shot out and shattered the wooden arm, but Madara taunted, Hashirama, you're not at full strength, and I now have power equal to the 6 paths. Your attacks are futile. Naruto Sasuke frowned and flicked back to Obito's side. He'd planned to injure Madara enough to force the tailed beasts out, as they had done with 6 paths Obito, but Madara's 10 tails Jinchuriki stability was stronger than 6 paths Obito's. The plan failed. I remember. You have a coordinate mark, right? Take me there. I can't hold on long, Naruto Sasuke said quietly. Because of Naruto's condition, their fusion time would be very short, only about 3 minutes at best. He had hoped to defeat Madara within 2.5 minutes and then absorb Kurama, but Madara as 10 tails Jinchuriki had exceeded his expectations. That wasn't going to work. They had to get to Minato for the other portion of Kurama's power. Go to the other Kurama? I won't let you take my tailed beast, Madara growled when he sensed Naruto Sasuke's strange chakra and saw them head in the direction of Minato and the others. He ignored everyone else and flew after them. Madara didn't believe half a Kurama would change the outcome, but he didn't want any variables. He wanted to cast Infinite Tsukuyomi and finish everything. Susanoo! Shisui fully activated his Manjikyo Sharingan, and a 70-meter-tall green giant appeared on the battlefield. Around them, people unleashed their strongest techniques: Sand Waterfall Imperial Funeral, Wood Dragon Technique, Sage Art, Yin Release Lightning Release, trying to stop Madara. Madara casually tossed a few truth-seeking balls and a 6-path Sage Art, neutralizing the attacks and streaking away without looking back. Madara's too strong after becoming the 10 tails Jinchuriki, Hashirama sighed. Even at his lifetime peak, he could not match this. This time I'll unleash my youth. I should be able to catch up, Metkai said, stepping forward. He wanted to remove his restrictions and open the Gate of Death, but Kakashi shook his head. 8 gates had been shown useful against 6 paths Obito, but its effect was limited, and Madara here was clearly stronger than that Obito. I'll take you there, Tobirama said from the shadows. He had been watching for an opening to ambush Madara, but hadn't found one. He had left a Flying Thunder God mark on Obito once before, and Obito had left one on Kakashi. Did you leave a Flying Thunder God mark? Then put your hand on me and take us. Hurry. Hashirama placed his hand on Tobirama. Obito had left a mark on Kakashi, and Tobirama had left one on Obito, their backups ready as they prepared to move at once. No text for this chapter. Let's proceed to the next chapter. Young man who guides the tailed beasts, you seem to know me? I know a little. Inside a vast white void, 2 figures in white robes sat cross-legged facing one another. Although you say you know me, to avoid any misunderstandings, I should still introduce myself. My name is Hagoromo. People in the ninja world generally call me the 6-path sage. My name is Mu Yue. People in the ninja world generally call me Mutsuki leader. Leader, huh? It seems you've done something similar to what I did. The 6-path sage studied him. Indeed, there are some similarities. I created a new shinobi sect and used it to connect the ninja world, but the exact methods differ from yours. Mu Yue nodded. I truly wish to understand the details, but I'm afraid there isn't enough time. The sage looked down. Beneath them lay a water mirror that showed a scene. Uchiha Madara absorbing the 10 tails, ascending toward divinity, preparing to become a Jinchuriki like the others. After all, it's not a simple matter. It would be impossible to explain fully in a short while. Mu Yue glanced around. He could more or less confirm this place was the legendary Pure Land. He wasn't dead. Some aspect of his being, similar to the 6-path sage, had allowed him entry. He felt no panic. The restraints here were not strict. If he chose, he could unleash his power and return to the real world. He hadn't left because, first, the battle still needed tending, and second, he wanted to learn from the 6-path sage. An opportunity to speak with a 1,000-year-old sage was rare. "I have an impertinent request," Mu Yue said. "Please help this world and reseal my mother, who is about to be resurrected." The Six-Path Sage listened. Now he existed only as soul and chakra, his ability to interfere in the real world limited. Calling on a powerful shinobi from a parallel world made sense. Mu Yue commanded the recognition of several tailed beasts, and, to the sage, looked like a potential savior of another world, trustworthy. "Otsutsuki Kaguya, huh? Yes, I can. But you must tell me how you sealed her and the methods you used to divide the 10 tails." Mu Yue smiled faintly. "It seems you know more than I imagined. I'll tell you, but I can't promise you'll be able to use the techniques in exactly the same way I did." The sage considered him. Mu Yue was capable, but compared to the sage in his prime, still lacking. "Please, tell me everything." Most of Mu Yue's strength came from the system's rewards, but in sealing techniques he truly excelled. Even Kushina, trained in sealing from childhood, had not matched him in learning speed. He had fused the system's knowledge with his own art. His sealing far surpassed the historic patriarchs of the Vortex clan. The sage explained the original methods. Mu Yue asked questions. The sage had no doubt now that, with time, Mu Yue could wield these techniques. While they spoke, the water mirror scene progressed. Madara had been repelled and was absorbing the divine tree. "The timing's right. It's time for me to go. It's not good for a living person to stay here too long." The sage extended his palms. A black moon appeared in one hand and a white sun in the other. "This is my yin and yang release. Please give it to Naruto and Sasuke. They are the reincarnations of my children and can help you seal Kaguya." "I will, but before I leave, I need to fetch something nearby." Mu Yue had been probing this strange space. He'd seen similar places, the ninja world's spiritual spaces, and this pure land shared some features. He didn't know whether it was a natural realm or something created, but it was layered. The sage planned to fetch something from a shallower layer known in the real world as Yomotsu Hirasaka. "Be careful," the sage warned. "You don't fully understand this place. Unrestrained use of strong forces could have unintended effects. I'll get it for you." He extended his hand. A blood-red eye appeared in his palm. Even before meeting Mu Yue, Hagoromo had been observing the visitors from parallel worlds and guessed what Mu Yue wanted: to help Shisui recover a sealed Mangekyo Sharingan so he could awaken the eternal Mangekyo. How Mu Yue knew about Shisui's eye was simple. Shisui and the other Shisui shared identical chakra, and Mu Yue's perception was close enough to sense his disciple's eye in the Pure Land. "Thank you for your trouble. Goodbye." Mu Yue took the Mangekyo eye and the yin-yang release, thanked the sage, and prepared to leave. "Those are the words I wanted to hear. Goodbye." The sage rose to see Mu Yue off. Although they had not spoken long, he found himself with a favorable impression of Mu Yue. Compared to his own sons, Mu Yue seemed more a true successor. It was a pity his chakra was nearly spent. Beyond the yin and yang release required to seal Kaguya, he had nothing left to give. With his current power, he doesn't need more of my chakra anyway, the sage thought, smiling as he sat and watched the water mirror. In the image, Madara laughed crazily, newly empowered and reaching for the final half of the 9 tails to activate infinite Tsukuyomi. Then, with casual grace, Mu Yue condensed a lightning blade suffused with 6-path senjutsu, slashed, severed Madara's outstretched arm, and rushed forward. 6 paths power? Where did this guy come from? Madara scowled at the golden aura surrounding Mu Yue. He drew chakra and fired a concentrated beam from his throat. Sage Art, Storm Release, Light Fang, Sukuna Hikona. Mu Yue did not dodge. He activated his black eye and calmly swept his gaze. To Madara's astonishment, the beam simply vanished. The move bewildered Madara so much he was forced backward to create distance. Yomotsu Hirasaka. Mu Yue formed a black portal and thrust his hand in, his space-time ninjutsu, mastered after taking control of the bloodline net. It worked under certain conditions and was especially useful for surprising opponents. With a pop, Mu Yue's hand appeared on Madara's chest, having emerged from behind him. Madara's scalp tingled. Had the 6-path sage risen again? Where had this monster come from? Mu Yue's perception flared. He located the 1-tail and 8 tails among the 9-tailed beasts through a portion of their chakra. He could have taken more, but he worried that stripping Madara of too much power would prevent him from using the infinite Tsukuyomi, Mu Yue had questions only Kaguya herself could answer, things even Hagoromo could not know. Satisfied, he ignored Madara and blinked to Naruto's side. Placing his right hand on Naruto, he transmitted the tailed beast chakra and yang release into him. Madara, annoyed to be ignored, shot upward and put distance between himself and Mu Yue. Mu Yue's abilities had stunned him. In 2 moves he'd been disarmed and injured without understanding how. Obito, puffing up, said loudly, "Big idiot. Scared now, aren't you? This is the all-powerful Mu Yue sage." He assumed the 6th-path sage had been overrated. Otherwise, how could Madara be felled so quickly? "You're out of chakra, and still so arrogant." Mu Yue shot a stream of energy at Obito's forehead, and then injected some of his chakra into the exhausted Obito and Kakashi. Obito scratched his head and laughed. Before Mu Yue arrived, he had been the one being bullied by Madara. Now Mu Yue had to be bullied in return. Mu Yue moved on to Sasuke. Sasuke turned his Mangekyo Sharingan on him, puzzled. "There's still a little of Naruto's chakra inside you, just enough." Mu Yue transmitted yin release to Sasuke. In the original timeline, Sasuke's Rinnegan awakening had not been solely the sage's doing. Kabuto had provided Hashirama cells. To gain the Rinnegan, an Indra reincarnation must acquire an Asura reincarnation's chakra or cells. Non-Indra Uchiha cannot evolve their Sharingan into a Rinnegan. Even for an Indra reincarnation, awakening the Rinnegan is difficult and lengthy. Yin release can accelerate it. Since Naruto was an Asura reincarnation, Sasuke, having fused with Naruto, needed only yin release to awaken the Rinnegan, as in the original story. Sasuke felt a surge of power into his body, and a strange sensation in his left eye. Mu Yue did not elaborate. He turned to Shisui and produced the blood-red Mangekyo. "Is this my other eye?" Shisui asked in surprise. According to Itachi's intel, the other eye should have been with Danzo. Could it be that Mu Yue's point of arrival had been Konoha? "Yes. Don't move. I'll take care of it." Mu Yue performed the transplant quickly, and under his chakra's protection, Shisui felt no discomfort. Finally, Mu Yue stood before Obito, the 6 paths Obito himself. Obito closed his remaining Mangekyo and could not bear to look. The golden-red light radiating from Mu Yue seemed to freeze him. Mu Yue extended his hand and used yin and yang release to create an eyeball for Obito's empty socket and to mend his dying body. Black Zetsu detached from Obito the moment Mu Yue appeared and burrowed into the earth. Since Kaguya's resurrection still required Black Zetsu as a catalyst, Mu Yue left him be for the time being. "Mu Yue," Obito murmured as he regarded the newly formed eye. He nearly called Mu Yue his teacher, but stopped. After what he had done, how could he claim such a title? Kakashi watched Mu Yue repair Obito with a complex expression. Though he hadn't experienced Obito's memories, he had heard about Mu Yue from Naruto and the other parallel world Shinobi. A good teacher was truly important. "So he's the Mu Yue sensei Obito talked about," Hashirama said, watching Mu Yue's effortless feats. "He truly is extraordinary. His power has already surpassed Madara." "Very powerful," Tobirama agreed. Though Madara was clever, he had almost no strength to resist him just now. Naruto, fortified by the combined nourishment of the tailed beast chakra and yang release, recovered quickly. He sprinted to Mu Yue, elated. "Brother Mu Yue, did you save me? I feel like a special power is inside me." "It was everyone's effort," Mu Yue replied briefly. "That power came from the 6-path sage. You'll need it in the coming battle." Madara, finding Mu Yue's methods too strange, gave up on the half of the 9 tails he had tried to seize and flew toward the moon to set up infinite Tsukuyomi. "Flying that high, what does Madara plan? Is that the Genjutsu, infinite Tsukuyomi?" Tobirama, who had been watching Madara closely, was the second person to notice. "That's right," Mu Yue said. "Those who don't want to fall asleep don't wander out. I will set up a barrier. Ninjas inside it and Edo Tensei Shinobi will not be affected by infinite Tsukuyomi." Mu Yue threw 7 black rods, mutated truth-seeking balls, around them. Celestial Barrier. As he activated his chakra, golden red energy flowed from the rods and formed a shield that enveloped Mu Yue and the others. The blood-red moon above emitted a blinding white light. Every person and animal across the ninja world, except those within Mu Yue's barrier, fell into unconsciousness. At this moment, both conditions for Otsutsuki Kaguya's revival had been met. "So, this is the infinite Tsukuyomi." It's incredible, someone murmured. Before them, night had been stripped away and the sky had become day. Everyone inside the universal barrier wore the same stunned expression. If Madara really cast this genjutsu across the entire shinobi world, undoing it will be extremely difficult, Kakashi observed, looking at the unconscious shinobi beyond the barrier. The simplest way to break a genjutsu is to disrupt chakra, but doing that on a global scale would be a monumental task. As long as it's a jutsu, there's a way to break it, Mu Yue said calmly. There must be a direct method to dispel it and wake everyone. Tobirama activated Flying Thunder God technique to scout outside the barrier, but it failed. This barrier isolates space. Ordinary space-time ninjutsu can't pass through, Mu Yue explained. The universal barrier's immense isolation was precisely why it could keep infinite Tsukuyomi from affecting those inside. Although they appeared to be in the same space as the rest of the world, the barrier had isolated them. Besides, I already know how to break infinite Tsukuyomi, Mu Yue added. In the Pure Land, the Sage of Six Paths had taught Mu Yue how to undo infinite Tsukuyomi. Even without that instruction, Mu Yue would have figured it out. After all, he was someone who had read the script. It's not difficult. You need someone who can wield the power of all the tailed beasts and someone who has a Rinnegan. Together, forming the child hand seal will dispel it. Power of all the tailed beasts and a Rinnegan? Tobirama's mouth twitched, but he couldn't deny the logic behind the claim coming from such a mysterious, powerful figure. So if it's true, Mu Yue and Nagato could just dispel it, right? Obito scratched his head. Dispelling it without defeating Madara is pointless. He can just cast it again. Six Paths Obito sighed long and low. Mu Yue nodded in agreement. At that moment, Mu Yue sensed something and waved his hand to open a dark spatial portal. Yamato fell out of it. Because he had been possessed by White Zetsu previously, Yamato hadn't been swept into the infinite Tsukuyomi with the others. He sat up, dazed. What happened to me? Where am I? He rubbed his head and looked up at the unfamiliar sky. A sharp chop landed on Yamato's head, precise, stinging, and made him spin around in confusion. Finally awake. You're under arrest for impersonating a Konoha shinobi and forging important Konoha documents, Kakashi said with a straight face. Huh? Yamato gawked at the 17-year-old-looking Kakashi and thought, briefly, that he'd transmigrated into another world. I'm a real Konoha shinobi. I can explain about the documents. Explain is what people say before they lie, Obito said, stepping forward darkly. I think you're a spy. Start talking, or you'll be in real trouble. You can avoid trouble for 500,000 Ryo, another voice said, deadpan. Yamato's hand went to his wallet as Kakashi's voice, the same but more mature and tinged with world wariness, offered a bribe. Then the fog in Yamato's mind cleared. That last voice was too familiar. He scrambled to his feet and saw Kakashi smiling, Naruto holding back laughter, Hiruzen shaking his head, and Mu Yue quietly smiling. Kakashi-senpai, Yamato exploded, feeling betrayed. Not only hadn't Kakashi warned him, he joined in the joke. The sky is pretty bright, huh? Kakashi looked up at what was actually the dazzling blood-red moon, still the moon, but somehow brighter in that world. Obito laughed. Captain Yamato really served as Anbu captain, or just got promoted to squad leader and took the title? Obito's merciless laugh set Naruto off. Naruto, unable to stop himself, burst out laughing, then, with mock seriousness, defended Yamato. Captain Yamato really did serve as Anbu captain. His wood release is incredible. Yamato felt a small warmth. After all, Naruto had stood up for him. So he was promoted because of his rare wood release, Kakashi said, feigning understanding. Yamato stared. Kakashi doubled down on the teasing. Don't bully Captain Yamato too much, Rin intervened gently, and the small kindness from the medic nin grounded Yamato's mood. The atmosphere inside the barrier lightened. Six Paths Obito watched Obito and Naruto laughing, and for a moment, the longing in his eyes for what he'd lost flickered. Kakashi appeared beside him and patted his shoulder, whispering encouragement. Kakashi was relieved. Six Paths Obito had finally come back to himself. It meant the hero had returned. Can I really atone for what I did? Six Paths Obito asked quietly, looking at his hands. A broken mirror can be glued back together, but the cracks remain. He had made too many mistakes. Kakashi only sighed. There was nothing to say to absolve him of what had happened. Below ground, Black Zetsu poked his head out, confused. Who is this person that can set up a barrier even Infinite Tsukuyomi can't penetrate, he wondered. Still, Infinite Tsukuyomi succeeded, Black Zetsu muttered. Mother, she will be reborn soon. No matter who opposes us, she will be unstoppable. Black Zetsu began scheming how to possess Madara and complete the final step to revive Otsutsuki Kaguya. Outside the barrier, the light from Infinite Tsukuyomi began to fade. Tobirama and the others noticed the day was turning back into night. The genjutsu was ending. Let's go, Sasuke, little brother Obito, big brother Obito, let's go with Mu Yue and teach that scoundrel Uchiha Madara a lesson, Naruto said, cracking his knuckles. Having been saved by Mu Yue, he felt stronger and eager to help. Six Paths Obito bristled at Naruto calling him little brother, while Kakashi muttered that it beat being called a decadent uncle. Sasuke crossed his arms. After awakening Yin release, he had a 6-Tomoe Rinnegan and the space-shifting Amena Jakara at his disposal. We don't need backup. Just us and Mu Yue can take him, he said with confidence. Mu Yue quietly retracted his truth-seeking ball and dispelled the universal barrier. He stepped forward to confront the descending Uchiha Madara. Who are you? Why are you interfering with people's happiness? He asked. Uchiha Madara landed, unafraid. Before, Limbo, Border Jail, had been on cooldown, and he'd been limited, but now Limbo was back, and Infinite Tsukuyomi complete. He didn't fear this mysterious shinobi. Happiness? If you think they're happy, why don't you go hang yourself from a tree and fall under a genjutsu? Madara sneered. Obito couldn't help himself. Only I can lead them forward as their leader. His voice was sharp. You, Madara began, but Mu Yue raised a hand to stop Obito. He knew no amount of talk would sway Madara. Only a real defeat could break the web. Black Zetsu had spun around him. A limbo shadow lunged at Mu Yue, but Mu Yue evaded it easily. Madara frowned. Golden eyes, what kind of ocular power is this? Can he see Limbo directly? Mu Yue's chakra flared in a golden-red aura. Sun-breathing chakra mode, he murmured, concentrating his breathing until the blazing sheen intensified. Using Flying Thunder God, he teleported behind Madara in an instant. Sage Art, Spiraling Sphere, Azure Flame. Mu Yue shouted, manifesting a blue-gold orb of flame and slamming it into Madara's back. In their first encounter, Mu Yue had already placed a teleport tag on Madara. The azure flames exploded over him, burning in a way that struck through to Madara's core. Damn it, Tobirama's ninjutsu? Madara hissed, forcing Limbo Border Jail to take the brunt of the attack. Even with a Limbo clone absorbing it, he still felt the burn. That fire? What kind of fire release is it? Madara muttered. He didn't realize Mu Yue's strike combined 6-path senjutsu, sun-breathing augmentation, and a super-powerful blue flame on par with the thoughtless blade. Madara retaliated. Sage Art, Yin Release, Lightning Strike. He condensed chakra and hurled a massive bolt of lightning from his palms. Mu Yue activated his eye technique and shrank the lightning until it vanished. It's like this again. What kind of Utsu? Madara's frown deepened. He wouldn't let Mu Yue close in without a fight. He sent his other 3 Limbo shadows to block Mu Yue and kept watch on his back. Flying Thunder, God's speed, while remarkable, was not the fastest among 6 Paths level shinobi if the opponent was prepared. Mu Yue formed 3 shadow clones. Each clone seized a Limbo shadow and used sealing techniques to immobilize them. Madara unleashed the truth-seeking orbs around himself like blades, launching them at Mu Yue. Mu Yue's eye technique reduced the orbs until they dissolved, one by one. Such strong suppressive power, Tobirama and the others murmured, surprised. Madara's ocular power, his sage art, none of it seemed to work on Mu Yue, while Madara couldn't suppress Mu Yue's attacks in turn. This is Sage Mu Yue, Obito said with a triumphant grin. How is this possible? I did everything on those stone tablets, so why is there someone stronger than me? Madara's frustration mounted. If jutsu won't work, there's always taijutsu. He stopped dodging and poured monstrous chakra into his body, charging Mu Yue with a blow that stirred a terrifying gale. Mu Yue didn't flinch. He watched calmly as Madara's fist closed the distance, 3 centimeters, 1 centimeter, 5 millimeters, and then the fist froze, 2 centimeters from Mu Yue's chest. No matter how much chakra Madara used, he could not close that final gap. That tangible, unreachable distance felt as distant as the ends of the earth to Madara. What is this? He gasped, scrambling for a way to break Mu Yue's strange control. He tried to retreat, but Mu Yue wouldn't give him the chance. Sage art, limitless, blue, Mu Yue declared, extending his palm. A gravitational sphere sprang into being between them, its suction anchoring Madara and causing his movements to falter. He missed the window to withdraw. Mu Yue drew a black katana formed from a truth-seeking ball and suffused it with overwhelming Six Paths chakra. Purple lightning danced along the blade, hissing and cracking, scorching the ground, as if a violent storm had been summoned. Dark clouds gathered, thunder muttered deep and low, blotting out even the blood-red moon. He swung. A purple electric slash lanced forward at blistering speed. Madara, unable to dodge, raised a hand and tried to block with his own Six Paths sage art, but the lightning slice ripped through everything that stood in its path. At that moment, Madara understood one thing. There were differences in how one used Six Paths sage art. He, who hadn't fully mastered sage art, was at a disadvantage. With a tremendous boom, the attack cleaved Madara's upper body from his lower half. The battlefield split open beneath the force of the blow, creating a gully so deep its end could not be seen by ordinary eyes. So Mu Yue-sensei had been holding back this much power? Kakashi breathed, looking at the lightning-scarred ravine. If Mu Yue had unleashed this level of force back during the 4 great shinobi villages' siege of the shinobi sect, even Onoki would have been terrified. Sage art lightning, Sasuke said, thoughtful and wary. Mu Yue's strength was overwhelming, enough to upset his plans. On the battlefield, Black Zetsu burrowed silently into the earth, eyes glittering. Madara was injured, but not yet wasted. He still had to be used. Black Zetsu needed to have a quiet, persuasive conversation with him, quickly, if they were to complete their final step. 789. Yishi, you are not dead. I can't fall here. I must lead this world to a truly peaceful, happy future. Uchiha Madara, reduced to only his upper body, clenched his teeth against the pain and staggered through the smoke. After absorbing the 10 tails, he had become effectively immortal. If he could only hold on, he would win everything. Madara. Black Zetsu watched the ragged Uchiha with an odd smile. Possess a ninja quickly and buy me some time. Madara barely glanced at Black Zetsu's expression and obeyed. Though Black Zetsu's appearance disgusted him, he was a manifestation of Madara's own will. He could not afford to spurn his creation. Black Zetsu slithered toward Lord Mu Yue and the others, but as he passed Madara, he suddenly turned back. Pfft! Black Zetsu's black limb stabbed through Madara's chest and activated the contingency Kaguya had prepared for her rebirth. You! Madara's face froze in stunned disbelief. The consciousness he had fashioned had betrayed him. He tried to unleash his power and kill Black Zetsu instantly, but found that he no longer controlled his body. Not a single spark of chakra answered him. Madara, you thought Obito was useless, but you're no different. You're both useless. Black Zetsu sneered. Is Infinite Tsukuyomi a jutsu meant to bring peace? I lied to you. Changing a stone tablet was child's play to one who's lived 1,000 years. Now comes the change. Let the true master of this world descend, my mother. As Black Zetsu kept speaking, Madara's face went pale and cold. The peace he had pursued for a millennium had been a lie. Black Zetsu's black chakra spread over Madara like corrosion, staining him in inky darkness. Madara's body became a chakra receiver, drawing in the power Infinite Tsukuyomi had gathered. His half-ruined form knit and bulged, rebuilding itself. What the hell? Why is Madara turning into a big black fatty? Obito scoffed as he dispersed the smoke to deliver the finishing blow, and froze at the sight of Madara's abnormal transformation. Fall back! His chakra is skyrocketing. His body could erupt. Kakashi stared with grim focus. Even as the 10 tails Jinchuriki, Madara's physical fortitude had been immense, but compared with the torrent of chakra now flooding him, it was negligible. Madara had become a walking chakra bomb of terrifying magnitude. Otsutsuki Kaguya is about to revive, Lord Mu Yue said quietly. The mother of the Sage of Six Paths? The one who would wipe out the shinobi world? Obito's eyes widened. He had heard the name before. He knew how even Lord Mu Yue had once said he couldn't defeat or seal Kaguya. Is that how she comes back? Jiraiya, who had learned of Kaguya during the martial arts tournament fallout, looked uneasy. It was whispered among the leaders, but this, the chakra around Madara peaked. He ballooned into a towering black sphere. The ground split and chunks of earth rose weightless into the air. Madara's muffled voice cut through the chaos. Hashirama. The pitch-black chakra blanketed his eyes, and Madara lost himself completely. The sphere contracted, shrinking into a tall woman with long white hair and a loose white robe. The entire battlefield fell strangely silent when she opened her eyes. Her chakra was so overwhelming that even Senju Hashirama looked astonished. "This Kaguya, her chakra dwarfs Madara's," Senju Tobirama said, his face grave. To him, Kaguya felt like a primordial god made flesh. The gulf between Madara and her was far larger than between Madara and Obito. "Finally, we meet, Otsutsuki Kaguya." Lord Mu Yue breathed as he stepped forward. Kaguya's presence was one of his objectives. The Otsutsuki clan only properly appeared at the end of histories, and the only member publicly known was Kaguya. For Mu Yue, learning about the clan, how they wandered, planted divine trees, harvested their fruit, mattered for the ninja world's survival. He had no way to travel between stars. Kaguya was his only lead. Kaguya's three eyes opened, and she sensed Hagoromo's chakra, fainter now and split into two parts. The first thing she saw was Lord Mu Yue approaching, and one golden eye among his face. "Ishiki, you're not dead?" Kaguya's heart skipped. She flashed back to the ambush on Ishiki. Though Ishiki had escaped with an eye technique, he had lost half his body to the 10 tails and should have been ruined. Seeing no other Otsutsuki nearby, she relaxed slightly. After devouring a divine tree fruit, her power had grown so much that even Ishiki would struggle against her. Everyone behind Mu Yue was stunned to see Kaguya recoil at his approach. Obito's excitement flared inwardly. If Kaguya feared Mu Yue, then Mu Yue was indeed more formidable than anyone had said. Tobirama thought the same. Mu Yue had seemed to anticipate everything that had happened as if nothing was hidden from him. Orochimaru licked his lips at the sight, coveting Mu Yue's genes, but he knew better than to act without permission. Betraying Mu Yue would be suicide. "Kaguya, 1,000 years have passed. I thought you'd forgotten me," Mu Yue said coolly, hands folded behind his back, motioning to the others to hold back. He didn't actually know Ishiki, but the names mentioned had been useful. Kaguya's reaction told him much. Ishiki shared eyes with whoever this Mu Yue was, had a grudge against Kaguya, and had once been stronger than her. Mu Yue played along enough to extract information, but he wasn't about to pretend deeper ignorance. "Of course I wouldn't forget. I am your guardian. Seems the clan trusted you since they sent no one else," Kaguya replied, her composure returning. She wasn't afraid of an Otsutsuki who hadn't eaten the fruit. "So Kaguya is a traitor to the clan," Mu Yue mused to himself. That was worse news. If the Otsutsuki had begun to move again, their return to the shinobi world might already be underway. Kaguya's Byakugan swept through Mu Yue and found something unexpected: no karma. "You're not Ishiki. You don't have his karma," she said, narrowing her gaze. "Who are you then? Why do you have those black eyes?" Kaguya demanded, staring hard. Mu Yue, seeing he'd been unveiled, stopped pretending. He noted the term she used and said simply, "I am Mu Yue. As for black eyes, they are just my eyes." Kaguya's long white hair surged like a living thing, whipping toward him. Anyone with those eyes was her enemy. To deal with an enemy was to absorb his chakra. But the truth-seeking balls around Mu Yue became twin blades and sliced through the attacking hair. "You don't feel like talking," Mu Yue observed as he slipped into sun-breathing chakra mode. He'd anticipated non-cooperation. In a world of extraordinary powers, conversation alone rarely worked. One had to have the strength to force others to listen. "Sage art, lava release, Rasen Shuriken," Mu Yue roared, shaping a churning, fiery Rasengan of lava-tinged sage chakra. Naruto, seeing Kaguya strike, immediately entered six-path sage mode. Golden light flared, and he surged forward, channeling sage chakra into a massive lava-release Rasengan. "Sage art, lava release, Rasen Shuriken," he echoed, throwing himself into the fray. Obito, not to be outdone, tapped into his own flame-breathing sage mode, condensing a great amount of sage chakra and hurling a gigantic blue-flamed great fireball. The battlefield erupted as allies and legends converged on Kaguya, who stood unmoved, the ancient power in her eyes unfazed by their assault. Chapter 790, Monthly Pass Lottery. Happy New Year, everyone. I've never run an event before, so to celebrate the new year, I'm doing a monthly pass lottery to give back to my brothers. This book has come a long way. It used to be a flop that didn't even make it to Sanjiang, and now it averages nearly 20,000 subscriptions. I'm truly grateful for everyone's support, especially the old readers who keep subscribing. Here's the prize pool for the monthly pass lottery. 1 NetEase Yangchuan Chunfeng, worth 199. 2 298 value ninja packs for the Hokage mobile game. 4 198 value ninja packs for the Hokage mobile game. 2050 value monthly cards for the Hokage mobile game. If a winner doesn't play the Hokage mobile game or doesn't want the prize, it can be exchanged for other items of equal value. For example, a snack gift pack or items for other games. Important, the lottery window is from 0 on January 1st to 0 on January 8th. Only monthly passes sent during this period are eligible. After you send a monthly pass, you'll get a stub with a monthly pass serial number. The lottery will draw those serial numbers. The draw will be streamed live or recorded, and the winning serial numbers will be posted in a separate chapter. Brothers, just wait and see if your serial number is among the winners. 791. Double Evil Uchiha 80 Gods Vacuum Attack. Kaguya raised her pale hands with uncanny calm. An immeasurable volume of chakra gathered in her palms. Boom! In an instant, countless gigantic chakra fists poured forth like a violent downpour. Wherever the shadows of those fists passed, the air seemed to ignite, bursting with deafening roars. Their power was a veritable super typhoon. Naruto's lava release. Rasengan, empowered by the 6 paths, was shredded by the onslaught before it could even touch Kaguya's robes. Obito's blue flame fire release, great fireball technique, dissipated on contact. The watching shinobi grew grave at the terrifying chakra fluctuations within those fists. Each strike contains 7 powerful nature transformations. She can actually do that, Senju Tobirama muttered in shock. Any ordinary blow from Otsutsuki Kaguya carried many times the force of a tailed beast ball. Even 6 Paths Obito, who had fought them to a standstill before, would be overwhelmed by a few of those punches. Jiraiya exhaled, seeing the distance between himself and Kaguya was greater than the gap between him as a Genin and Hiruzen. This wasn't simply dimensional power anymore. Divine Golden Skyline. Mu Yue shot forward. Fingers already strengthened, forming a slashing motion. A slender but blindingly brilliant golden line flashed through the air. Where the golden blade met the enormous chakra fists, the fists were cleaved like paper. Great numbers of them shattered and exploded, sending shockwaves through the battlefield, continuous roars, flying debris, and a choking cloud of dust and smoke. Wind release dispersed the haze, revealing Mu Yue and Kaguya unhurt amid a landscape transformed into a cracked basin, as if apocalyptic forces had rent the land. I must absorb his chakra, Kaguya said, eyes greedy as she stared at Mu Yue. His chakra exceeded everyone else's combined. Under ordinary circumstances, Mu Yue wouldn't hold so much, but understanding that they were facing an Otsutsuki, he had borrowed chakra from the Ninetales, retained a great reserve of his own, and built up Yang Seal chakra over time. Kaguya's attributes were absurdly high. Even though she'd been sealed a millennium, she wasn't on the same level as Uchiha Madara or 6 Paths Obito. Mu Yue had prepared accordingly. The destruction is greater than my fight with Madara, Hashirama said with concern. If this duel continued, the ninja world itself would pay the price. I'll try to take her to the Kamui dimension, 6 Paths Obito offered. It might be feasible if Mu Yue could pin Kaguya and Obito assisted from the side. And what would your single-eyed Kamui do? Let me, both eyes intact, handle it, another voice cut in. It was the other Obito, and it was well known the Sharingan worked best with both eyes. Are you trying to show off? Without Hashirama cells, using Kamui this often and still being in that state surprises me, the other Obito replied, voice low. He had used Kamui countless times on the battlefield. Using it fast often meant activating both eyes at once. I'm not showing off. I haven't reached my limit. Obito snapped back. The ability to use Kamui like that was partly thanks to Yang release breathing, and partly to the combined earring. Using Kamui in tandem was easier than alone. Ameno Tejikara. Kaguya paused, gathering an immense amount of chakra, then activated her dojutsu. In a blink, she shifted herself, and those nearby, into the space of her eye technique. Only within Ameno Tejikara could she fight at her peak. Obito and the others' visions smeared and a bizarre sensation of heat and weightlessness swept over them. They looked around and found themselves falling quickly through a lava world. Summoning technique. Obito formed the signs and called forth a summon. They had brought their 9 beasts to Naruto's world, but the battlefield intensity had kept them from using summons much. Even experienced summons would be at risk here, but Obito needed help fast. A massive Charizard roared in response to the heat, then froze, hawk at the sight before it. Dozens of Uchiha apparitions. Unsure what was happening, Charizard swept in and snatched Rin Nohara, scooping up other fighters in its talons to steady them amid the fall. Susanoo! Shisui unleashed the chakra Mu Yue had placed in his eyes, and a towering green warrior with great wings, over 150 meters tall, manifested in the lava world. With that gargantuan body, Shisui caught many of the falling shinobi. Sasuke also erected his Susanoo, immediately securing Naruto. Actually, Naruto, you can fly, Mu Yue reminded him, then waved to open a dark spatial gate, allowing some of the ninjas to retreat from the lava world. In battles at 6 paths level, numbers could become a distraction, especially to Mu Yue. His true purpose wasn't to seal Kaguya yet. It was to extract information about the Otsutsuki clan from her. Until he had that intelligence, he would not allow her to be sealed, so he needed the focus kept tight. Kaguya had no intention of giving anything up easily. Any attempt to question her would be met with fierce resistance. Naruto experimented and discovered he really could fly. He shaped a truth-seeking ball into it and placed it under 6 paths Obito's feet, so Obito wouldn't have to crowd onto a summoning dragon. Obito, you take it. I'm not useful here. I won't slow you down. Kakashi thought for a moment, then removed his Mangekyo Sharingan, and with resolution, handed it to 6 paths Obito. On this battlefield, Kakashi's current strength wasn't enough to contribute much. Kamui was wasted on him now. Seeing Kakashi give up the eye that originally belonged to him, Obito hesitated for half a second before taking the Mangekyo. Naruto flew over and, using yin-yang release, formed an artificial eye for Kakashi. I'll pull my weight for yours as well, Obito said as he inserted the replaced eye. No, Rin, Kakashi replied quietly. He smiled faintly, poured most of his chakra into Rin, who still rode within Shisui's Susanoo, and then leapt into the portal back to the ninja world. Minato Namikaze encouraged him on his way. Having neither his 9 tails nor 1 arm, staying would do more harm than good and could become a liability to Naruto. In the end, only a small group remained in the lava space. The reanimated Senju, Tobirama, and Hashirama, alongside Naruto, Sasuke, 6 paths Obito, Mu Yue, and a few others. The rest had retreated through Mu Yue's gate to regroup. Susanoo, 6 paths Obito poured his 6 paths power into both eyes. A massive blue warrior, complete body Susanoo, towered over the lava world. Although it was his first time fully manifesting Susanoo, the boost from 6 paths energy allowed him to maximize his Mangekyo's power. For a moment, there were 3 complete body Susanoo in the lava space. Charizard snorted as if to say, look at them, Uchiha, Uchiha everywhere. Obito's face darkened. Of course he could call out Susanoo, but being even slightly smaller than the others would have stung his pride. Boom, boom. Mu Yue and Kaguya exchanged brutal blows. The lava chamber shuddered with each strike, torrents of molten rocks surging. Kaguya, of course, did not merely transport them here to idle. She attacked with everything she had. It was precisely because Mu Yue kept her occupied up front that Kakashi and the others had been able to complete the eye transfer and escape to safety. The battle in the lava space raged on, each side unleashing world-shaking power as the fate of the ninja world trembled on the edge. Chapter 787, Resisting the Otsutsuki Clan. Together, whoosh! Under Otsutsuki Kaguya's eye technique, everyone was dragged into the starting ball dimension. As soon as the new arena formed, Kaguya shot into the sky and began refining chakra, drawing power from the infinite Tsukuyomi. Damn it, that transfer ninjutsu again. Naruto, dazed for a moment, grumbled at the sudden change in scenery. Ameno Tejikara was brutally unfair. Super Obito noticed Kaguya's chakra skyrocketing. With his command of space, he forged a giant blue sword and struck. Sasuke raised Susanoo and charged in from another flank. Unlike Naruto, he couldn't fly directly and had no truth-seeking balls to rely on, so Susanoo was his only lift. Whoosh, whoosh! Senju Tobirama flashed 2 flying thunder god kunai. Expanding truth-seeking ball. Like Kaguya poured all the chakra she'd absorbed into forming a truth-seeking ball, an enormous black sphere over 400 meters across, still growing. The expanding truth-seeking ball was one of her ultimate moves. It chewed through so much chakra, she only ever used it while siphoning power from infinite Tsukuyomi. Super Obito slammed the brakes, stopping 10 meters from the colossal sphere. Sasuke on the other side had to halt as well. Truth-seeking balls were standard for Six Paths level fighters, but nothing about a sphere that size was ordinary. Sukuna Hikona! Mu Yue's gaze cut across the black mass and, in an instant, shrank it down to about 100 meters. He could have reduced it to nothing, but that would have cost too much chakra, and wasn't necessary. Kamui. Super Obito moved next, activating his eye and drawing the truth-seeking ball into the Kamui dimension. Kaguya's brow tightened. She'd barely noticed Mu Yue using his eyes in this fight before, and had forgotten he possessed abilities mirroring Otsutsuki Ishiki's, a nasty, insidious technique. Whoosh! Tobirama reappeared behind Kaguya, bringing Uzumaki Naruto with him. Just as Naruto surged forward to smash Kaguya with a Rasengan, Kaguya twisted and her bone spikes impaled both of them. Because of her impenetrable body and Byakugan, she didn't get caught by surprise. Bang! Both of them dissipated into smoke. They were shadow clones. When the clones vanished, a kunai tumbled from one of them. The real Tobirama and Naruto then appeared beside Super Obito. Sage Art, Kamui Rasen Shuriken. Naruto formed a Rasen Shuriken. Super Obito poured a massive dose of Kamui into it. Kaguya saw them and flew upward, but Mu Yue, having shrunk himself, burst out of a tiny spatial gate and punched Kaguya straight into Sasuke's Amenotejikara range. Amenotejikara. Sasuke swapped Kaguya with the kunai that had fallen near Naruto. Boom! The Kamui Rasen Shuriken crashed into Kaguya, siphoning half her body and Black Zetsu into the Kamui dimension. All-killing ash bones! With a cold expression, Kaguya fired ash bones from her remaining hand, ranged attacks that annihilated everything they touched. The blast shattered Super Obito's Susanoo and kept streaking toward Naruto trapped inside it. Super Obito reacted fast. The instant the ash bones hit the Susanoo, he shoved Naruto free and let the attack pass through himself. The ash bones tore through as if through a phantom. Amenotejikara! Kaguya teleported everyone again, this time into the gravity dimension. Bang! Bang! They landed under oppressive gravity. The truth-seeking balls behind Naruto and Mu Yue dropped to the ground and could no longer float. In the gravity dimension, the stronger the chakra a person had, the heavier the gravity pressed on them. Yomotsu Hirasaka! Kaguya opened a black portal beneath her, aiming back for the starting ball dimension. The Kamui Rasen Shuriken had combined Naruto's Six Paths power and Super Obito's Kamui, making it devastating. It hadn't killed Kaguya's immortal body, but it had weakened her and left her needing time to recover. Mu Yue and the others wouldn't give her that time, so she had to take everyone away and teleport back alone. Amenotejikara fixed Evrio, knee inside its range together. She couldn't teleport some people and leave others behind. Because the gravity dimension's environment limited their options, the ninja couldn't stop Kaguya from leaving easily. Only Mu Yue, who also knew Yomotsu Hirasaka, could pursue her immediately. Super Obito could use Kamui to follow Amenotejikara, but it wasn't nearly as convenient. It consumed huge amounts of chakra and required scouting world by world. This was Obito's first time traveling like this. He had to find coordinates before he could Kamui to them. You dare to pursue me alone. Kaguya smirked faintly at Mu Yue, who had popped into the starting ball dimension. Of everyone present, the one she wanted gone first wasn't Naruto, Sasuke, or Super Obito. It was Mu Yue. Earlier, when no one knew her true nature, Mu Yue alone had blocked her attacks and prevented her from siphoning Naruto and Sasuke's chakra. Later, even as he conserved power, every time he acted, he nullified a major Kaguya killing move, and it infuriated her. If I kill you, the others will be nothing. Kaguya unleashed a barrage of giant chakra fist shadows. All-killing ash bones was powerful but useless against Sukuna Hikona's trickery, and she didn't expect to finish Mu Yue in a move or two. Her goal was to buy another 30 seconds to recover. You can try. Mu Yue smiled faintly and flicked a golden thread that sliced through the giant fists. Yang Seal release! He opened the seal within him, and a surge of chakra poured out, making his golden red aura even denser. After all the fights, he'd mapped Kaguya's strength precisely. Even one-on-one, she wasn't a match for him. Kaguya was formidable. She had many devastating abilities and extreme sustain, but her combat finesse was poor, limiting her performance. Rabbit hair needle. Kaguya sprayed vast sheets of white hair needles while rising into the sky. She only needed 10 more seconds for her body to recover. Sage art. Armed color hockey. Mu Yue combined Sage chakra with Six Paths energy to activate armed color hockey, letting the needles strike him as he closed rapidly on Kaguya. Seeing the needles fail, Kaguya burned another huge reserve of chakra and formed an enormous truth-seeking ball between them. Her only real defense now, since her 80 gods vacuum attack hand couldn't stop Mu Yue's golden horizon, and all killing ash bones had been countered by his eyes. Just when she thought she had the advantage, Sukuna Hikona. The giant truth-seeking ball vanished in an instant. Kaguya stared at Mu Yue, shocked and confused. This wasn't how it had gone before. Sage art, spiraling sphere, azure flame. Mu Yue pushed Sun Breath Sage art to its limit. A ball of blue-gold fire coalesced in his palm and slammed into Kaguya. The blistering flames burned through her hair and incinerated a large portion of her recently regenerated body. Her face contorted in pain as the explosion hurled her toward the ground. Yomotsu Hirasaka! Mu Yue opened a black portal to the ice dimension, catching Kaguya as she fell and dragging her in. He darted through the gate behind her. The starting ball dimension was a terrible place to keep fighting. Kaguya could restore chakra too quickly there. In the ice dimension, she immediately tried to use Yomotsu Hirasaka to leap back, but the prior expanding truth-seeking ball had emptied too much of her reserves, and Mu Yue's assault had left her with no chakra to fuel Ameno Tejikara. Bang! Mu Yue appeared beside her and punched the escape from her reach. Kaguya's face registered disbelief. How is this possible? I, ancestor of chakra, am no match for him. When the Six-Path Sage had sealed her long ago, he'd had his brother's help. From Mu Yue's perspective, taking her down was simply a matter of seizing the opportunity. He pressed the advantage. Using his hidden strength and the information he'd gained, he kept Kaguya from recovering. His original plan had been to cripple her, then have Super Obito bring Naruto and the others over so they could drag the weakened Kaguya to another dimension and interrogate her. But Kaguya's own expanding truth-seeking ball had backfired, making Mu Yue's job much easier. Pfft! Mu Yue waved his hand. 7 black rods, shaped like tiny truth-seeking ball cores, ignited with flame and pierced 7 of Kaguya's pressure points, preventing her from refining chakra. As the being with the largest chakra reserves in the ninja world, Kaguya's refining speed was terrifying. Left unchecked, she would be able to Ameno Tejikara again quickly. I think we can restart our previous conversation now. Mu Yue leaned down over Kaguya, pinned to the ice, and spoke. Actually, there's no need for us to fight to the death, he said. We share an enemy, the Otsutsuki clan. You want to deal with the clan? Kaguya asked, surprised. Will they come to the ninja world again? Mu Yue didn't answer directly. They will, because I'm here, and this is a fertile world, perfect for producing high-quality fruit. Kaguya considered that. That had been why she'd sought strength through every means she could, to survive when the Otsutsuki investigators arrived. If they plant divine trees, the ninja world will be destroyed. I don't want to be relocated to other planets. So who are you, really? Mu Yue asked. You know of the clan, and you have Ishiki's eyes. Kaguya eyed him warily. Earlier, when Mu Yue had tried to trick her into talking, she'd only mentioned the clan, not the Otsutsuki specifically. Yet Mu Yue knew of them, enough to startle her. That was a secret her own filial son hadn't known. The Six-Path Sage had only known she wasn't from the ninja world. He didn't know where she'd come from, much less about the Otsutsuki clan. As I said, Mu Yue replied after a moment, I'm Mu Yue, a born native of the ninja world with some power. I learned of the Otsutsuki by accident. Kaguya believed most of it, musing that perhaps Ishiki hadn't truly died, but something had gone wrong with his reincarnation, producing Mu Yue instead. If you'll cooperate, first free me, she said through gritted teeth, then we'll go together to absorb the chakra of Hagoromo's successors. She sounded sincere this time. White Zetsu raised from the ninja world couldn't produce a half Otsutsuki like Mu Yue. With him as an ally, her odds against incoming Otsutsuki investigators would improve drastically. If they could beat the investigators, they could control the ninja world and seize the saplings the investigators brought on other planets to grow their own power. If we deal with them, I'll give you 30% of the ninja world's chakra, Kaguya added, enduring the pain. Mu Yue formed a hand seal of his own. The 7 black rods burned brighter, digging into her pressure points. Otsutsuki Kaguya, recognize one fact. You were defeated by me, not the other way around. Even now, pinned and beaten, she still wanted 70%. Her appetite for chakra was endless. 793, eternal divine power. You are not qualified to bargain with me. Tell me everything you know about the Otsutsuki clan, and maybe you'll live. Refuse, and you'll only get death. Mu Yue's voice was calm but cold. Kaguya's immortality had always depended on her possession of the 10 tails. Remove the tailed beast from an Otsutsuki, and you could kill them. Now that Mu Yue had reached 6 Paths level and mastered the bloodline net, he saw things differently, including how Kaguya could resurrect. Black Zetsu's existence mattered far more than the Rinnegan or the 10 Tails Jinchuriki. Not because Black Zetsu meticulously planned Kaguya's return, but because Black Zetsu's body carried a unique portion of Kaguya's chakra. Only if Black Zetsu injected that chakra into a 10 Tails Jinchuriki, its vessel, could Kaguya truly come back. Without that step, no matter how many 10 Tails Jinchuriki appeared, Kaguya could not resurrect. To finish her for good, you didn't merely have to extract the beast, you had to watch her afterward to make sure Black Zetsu or similar entities couldn't escape. You can't conceive of our clan's strength. I'm only a lowly member. If I die, you alone won't be able to stop the family, Kaguya warned, invoking the Otsutsuki's might. She was careful to conceal some things. She had indeed been ordinary once, before she ate the divine tree fruit. Besides, you lack a way to cultivate soldiers. Even if you cast infinite Tsukuyomi, you won't be able to forge proper warriors, she added. Infinite Tsukuyomi could convert people into white Zetsu, but that was only the first step. Turning white Zetsu into an effective fighting force took more, and Kaguya knew how little Mu Yue could do without those steps. Whether I can stop the Otsutsuki clan is uncertain, Mu Yue said, but if you won't cooperate on my terms, you die now. He plunged his hand into Kaguya's chest and activated the chakra of the 9 tails. The tailed beast chakra inside Kaguya roared, trying to break free. Things were different now. After the sage's modifications, the 10 tails and the 9-tailed beasts each had wills of their own. They weren't the simple constructs of legends. Mu Yue judged the sage at his peak might have been roughly comparable to high-tier Kaguya. All 9 tails surged, attacking from within Kaguya, but they couldn't break free. Their momentum faded. Mu Yue expected as much. Then he activated the chakra separation technique he'd learned from the sage. No matter how powerful the source, you couldn't pull the beasts out by brute force alone. Kaguya had been the chakra source of the Shinobi world. You needed the proper method. No! Kaguya's face contorted in pain. With a boom, the chakra bonds severed. Mu Yue pulled the 9-tailed beasts out of her body. Kaguya's already pale skin went even more ghastly. It's you, Kurama said in surprise when it recognized Mu Yue. It had accepted him earlier than Naruto had, so the recognition made sense. Kurama knows him? Why does it feel like his chakra is inside that man? Four Tails asked, puzzled. It shared its chakra with Mu Yue, but had no memory of the man himself. Lord Mu Yue, so you freed Kurama and the others. Naruto, who had been brought over by Super Obito, stared at the beasts in shock. Sasuke saw Kaguya collapsed on the ice, gripped his sword, and charged, only to be held back by Mu Yue. Mu Yue couldn't allow a killing blow before he extracted the information. So this entire time we've been in this space, Super Obito exhaled. He had used Kamui to search multiple spaces for the starting sphere, but found it empty, until he located Mu Yue in the frozen chamber. Kamui's cross-world travel consumed enormous chakra, so Obito had only brought Naruto and Sasuke. Mu Yue put a hand on Sasuke's shoulder, shook his head, then turned to Kaguya and fixed her with a cold stare. Ishiki and I were sent by our family to the ninja world to plant the divine tree. The fruit of that tree holds the power of evolution. All Otsutsuki pursue a single goal, to evolve into the god of the Otsutsuki. Faced with Mu Yue's method and resolve, Kaguya spilled much information. The Otsutsuki clan had a strict hierarchy. Guardians, those with weaker bloodlines, protected the important ones and could be sacrificed to feed the Ten Tails when necessary. The protected could implant their data into a chosen vessel via an ability called karma. A qualified vessel could store an Otsutsuki's data and later be used to resurrect them. For Guardians, pills made from divine tree fruit, the evolution pills, were rare. Kaguya had yearned to evolve, but as a Guardian she had had no chance. So she ambushed Ishiki, fed him to the Ten Tails, and swallowed the divine tree fruit herself instead of turning it over. Her plan had been to eat the fruit, create lower-level Otsutsuki to plant the divine tree, and during the fruit's dormant phases, use infinite Tsukuyomi to turn the ninja world into barracks, then forge white Zetsu soldiers to fight their family. She simply hadn't expected her own descendants to be strong enough to seal her. So that's why. No wonder you thought I was linked to Ishiki, Mu Yue muttered, considering the karma Kaguya had described. Given Mu Yue's eyes, Byakugan and his black eyes, and his sage body, his bloodline leaned more Otsutsuki than Shinobi. If someone taught him how, he might already be capable of karma. He suspected Ishiki was not dead. Ishiki is definitely not dead, Mu Yue said aloud. If Ishiki still lived in either world, he was likely half alive. Otherwise, the clan would not be spreading slaughter in the ninja world so easily. Mu Yue thought of karma again, then looked at his palm. He had black eyes and Byakugan, sage body now. He had Otsutsuki traits. Perhaps there was something to learn. 6 paths. Jotian sealing. Daikokuten. Mu Yue layered a supercharged sealing technique on Kaguya, then opened Daikokuten and absorbed her. Kaguya had been talking when he cut her off. He had no intention of leaving even the remnant of a karma behind. He might cooperate with her when the time was right, but she was an unpredictable alien with terrible credit as a partner. Left loose, she might have stashed karma and caused catastrophe. To be safe, Mu Yue sealed her in Daikokuten. He wasn't worried Ishiki might take her. He had marked her. If Ishiki removed her elsewhere, Mu Yue would sense it and could then trace Ishiki by super-perception. What clan? What god of the Otsutsuki? What did that rabbit hag say? Naruto asked, bewildered by the torrent of information. Sasuke's face was grave. This changes everything. If it's true, we can't eliminate the 5 Kage and the tailed beasts just yet. He had hoped to use infinite Tsukuyomi to kill the Kage and the tailed beasts and bear all the world's hatred himself in order to unify the Shinobi world. But against an enemy like the Otsutsuki clan, one man's strength might not be enough. The ninja world now has a very powerful foe, Mu Yue said simply, then used Yomatsu Hirasaka to pull everyone out of Amenotejikara. The 6-path sage appeared as they emerged and immediately looked at Mu Yue. Didn't Naruto and Sasuke use my power to seal Kaguya? He asked. If they had used 6 paths Chibaku Tensei, the sage would have felt it. No, Mu Yue answered. Things are complicated, but Kaguya can't resurrect again. The sage's face hardened. He had known Kaguya wasn't from their world, but he hadn't imagined such a powerful clan behind her. Slowly, he withdrew the unused yin and yang chakra from Naruto and Sasuke. The millennium had taken its toll, and his reserves weren't limitless. Naruto, Sasuke, he said, reluctant to see his 2 students fight. Rin Nohara stepped forward, worry written on her face. She was ashamed she hadn't been able to participate in the battle and anxious about Mu Yue and the others in Amenotejikara. No one was injured, Super Obito replied. Lord Mu Yue protected everyone well. Rin smiled gently at Super Obito. For a moment his deep, clear eyes drifted, and he seemed lost in thought. Then Mu Yue said to Nagato, let's undo the infinite Tsukuyomi. Undoing the infinite Tsukuyomi required tailed beast power and the Rinnegan. Mu Yue's black eyes wouldn't do. Nagato nodded and joined him. As they completed the hand signs, the blood-red hue of the full moon faded, and those trapped in the genjutsu began to wake. Obito, what's wrong? Rin asked, seeing Super Obito dazed. Super Obito only stared at Rin. In a white flash, he split back into 6 paths Obito and Obito. 6 paths Obito tossed a pair of Patara to Kakashi, then moved toward Nagato. Sorry, he said. Can I borrow your Rinnegan? 1 is enough. 6 paths Obito wanted to complete an unfinished task. Revive all the dead of the allied shinobi forces. Last time, Black Zetsu interfered and he only revived part of them. Nagato glanced at Mu Yue. One of Nagato's Rinnegan had originally come from Six Paths Obito. Returning it was no issue, but Nagato feared further accidents. Mu Yue nodded. He knew Obito too well. He had taught Obito for 9 years. He knew every side. Six Paths Obito's obsession with infinite Tsukuyomi had been his support. When it collapsed, so did his will. Now, if there was any chance to atone with his life, Six Paths Obito would gladly sacrifice himself. Nagato wrapped his palm in Yang-release chakra, removed one Rinnegan, and handed it to Six Paths Obito. "Thank you," Six Paths Obito said, fitting the eye in. He moved with grim determination. Kakashi rushed up. "Obito, you don't have to." Six Paths Obito didn't answer. Instead, he removed his other Manjikyo and walked toward Obito. He offered the eye. "Who wants your eyes? I don't need them," Obito refused. Six Paths Obito laughed and cursed. "Don't be stupid. I'm not giving them to you. They were for Mu Yue and Rin, but they're not suitable, so I'm entrusting them to you for safekeeping." Obito's refusal had been expected. No one knew Obito like Six Paths Obito did. Obito didn't want to equate himself to others, so he didn't want to upgrade to Eternal Manjikyo using his own eyes. "Or are you scared? Scared that if you do something bad later, my eyes will watch you?" "I'm not you. I'm not scared," Obito snapped. "Then stop talking nonsense," Six Paths Obito pushed, thrusting the Manjikyo into Obito's hand before he could refuse. He then faced Rin and Kakashi, saying hurried farewells, and returned to Mu Yue's side. "Lord Mu," he began. Slap! Mu Yue tapped Six Paths Obito's forehead with his index and middle finger. The gesture triggered something instinctive. Six Paths Obito touched the spot, and suddenly Obito's memories, his feelings, flooded him. The scenes from Obito's life poured in. Six Paths Obito's hands tightened into fists. He hated it so deeply. Why had he not been the one to live? They had been the same, but not. His vision blurred. He strained to see, but the world grew dim. "Say whatever's on your mind. Don't bottle it up," Mu Yue sighed. Then, "Goodbye, Mu Yue, sensei," Six Paths Obito whispered, wiping tears away. He looked at Mu Yue one last time, then closed his eyes and began forming hand signs. Obito watched, biting his lip, unable to speak. Reincarnation! When the hand signs finished, the King of Hell appeared and vomited forth countless souls. Simultaneously, Six Paths Obito felt his life force draining. In that final instant, he turned to Obito, mouthed a silent thank you, and gave the smallest, most genuine smile. It was Obito who had shown him a world of peace, who had revealed Mu Yue as a good teacher, who had let him feel happiness in the last moments of his life. When their chakra touched, Six Paths Obito had felt those 17 years of Obito's life in an instant. "Goodbye to this wretched world without Mu Yue and without Rin," he murmured. Then, opening his eyes for the last time, he looked at Obito and spoke with his failing breath. "You absolutely must become Hokage." "As if I need you to tell me!" "Of course!" Obito shouted back, voice cracking with pain and resolve. But it was uncertain if Six Paths Obito heard. His eyes had already lost their light. 794. End of the Fourth War. If only I'd been a little faster. Arrived a few minutes earlier. Minato Namikaze muttered, full of self-reproach, as he watched Obito's chakra fade. Seeing Six Paths Obito choose sacrifice again instead of atoning while alive left him bitter. If not for his mistake, Six Paths Obito might have become a mentor Naruto admired, not this. The cheerful, confident Obito constantly reminded Minato of one thing. When it came to being a teacher, he was far inferior to Mu Yue. Kamui can't hold back tears. Obito sighed. Having witnessed the whole of Six Paths Obito's life, he understood the man's choices. Without Mu Yue, he might have sat in Kamui's dimension, quietly mourning Rin Nohara. Understanding didn't mean approval. Obito still condemned what Six Paths Obito did in his darker days. If he could relive that life with those memories, he insisted, he would never have tried to cast the world into infinite Tsukuyomi out of grief. He would have mourned Rin, yes, but then set his sights on a different path. Become Hokage and end the war so others would not suffer the same loss. Am I the only one left again? Kakashi's face had a brief involuntary loneliness. In the end, Minato's squad was down to him alone. Look again, why don't you take a good look at Minato? Mu Yue, who had been comforting Minato, said with a faint smile. Kakashi glanced toward Minato and saw those disheartened luminous blue eyes. Obito's reincarnation, Kakashi remembered. Reincarnation could directly revive ninja like Edo Tensei. He quickly checked the other 3 Edo Hokage and found them alive. Is this jutsu that powerful? It actually revived all 4 of us at once. Senju Tobirama's surprise was plain. In his experience, reincarnation required chakra to revive a ninja. The stronger the ninja, the more chakra needed. The combined chakra of the 4 Hokage was vast, especially Hashirama and Tobirama, so 6 Paths Obito's chakra alone should not have been enough. But Nagato had known what Obito planned and had not been idle. That Rinnegan held most of Nagato's chakra as well as a portion of the 6 Paths power Mu Yue had given him. Otsutsuki Kaguya had been too strong for Nagato to intervene much in the battle, so Mu Yue's 6 Paths power remained until the end. Haha, looking at this, one might think the monkey is the elder. Senju Hashirama laughed, eyeing Hiruzen Sarutobi, the only one who actually looked old. Hiruzen mentally scowled. When Orochimaru had used Edo Tensei, he hadn't bothered to make him younger. He'd missed the chance to return to his prime. Dad! Naruto ran forward and hugged Minato, elated by his revival. Although Minato and his wife in Mu Yue's world had been kind to him, Naruto didn't want his family affection divided. Minato Namikaze gently stroked Naruto's head. I'm sorry, you've worked hard all these years. As a Hokage, Minato was worthy, but as a father he felt inadequate. 17 years of Naruto's life had passed without him. Naruto said nothing, simply hugged Minato tighter. From the horizon a faint golden glow slipped through the battlefield's cracks, dispelling darkness. Naruto, happy birthday. Minato smiled. As for a gift, I'll try to make it up to you today. Is there anything you want? Minato asked, embarrassed. If there's anything I do poorly as a father in the future, please tell me. I'm inexperienced. Strictly speaking, this was only Minato's 2nd day as a father. Naruto shook his head with a bright smile. No need. Dad's blessing is the best gift. Mu Yue offered a faint smile and placed a hand on Minato's severed arm, restoring it. The Minato who had been revived had an arm severed by yin-yang release. Mu Yue repaired it. Thank you so much, big brother Mu Yue, Naruto said, grateful, then quickly checked for any discomfort from his father's side. Punch me twice, big brother Naruto, Obito said suddenly, a strange sadness behind his smile. Knowing what 6 Paths Obito had done felt like a guilt he could not shake. Why would I hit you? We should thank you, little brother Obito. Naruto laughed, draping an arm around Obito's shoulder. He could not hate Obito, not the counterpart who had gone astray, and not 6 Paths Obito either. The fault, Naruto knew, lay with the war and the world at that time, not only with the men who lost their way. Big brother Naruto! Obito returned the sentiment with respect and a thumbs up. Naruto's open-heartedness reminded him of Mu Yue. When Mu Yue had displayed power at the martial arts tournament, everyone feared the 4 great shinobi villages were finished and that Mu Yue would sweep the 4 nations. Yet Mu Yue had not unleashed that force. He might have crushed nations and forced peace, but the cost would have been catastrophic. Mu Yue chose restraint. Naruto, happy birthday, time flies. You're 17 now. Kakashi sighed and offered congratulations. 17? Obito blinked, confused. What about the whole 1 year older than me bit? Who had corrupted his big brother? Haha, don't mind the details, Naruto chortled, trying to smooth things over. Even though it's your birthday today, you're being too stingy. At least call me big brother Obito a few times. Their back and forth over titles left Kakashi speechless. Kakashi, you be the judge, Obito urged. Kakashi-sensei, you say something too. Naruto looked at him. I'm not interested in judging such boring things. Kakashi rolled his eyes. Then he brightened. I have an idea. Why doesn't Yamato treat us all to ramen? We can debate while eating. Yamato blinked, bewildered by how the conversation twisted to him. I support that. Yamato was an Anbu captain, so he must be rich. Treating us to ramen is only right. Kakashi nodded solemnly. He'd never forget the grievance of being knocked on the head. 2 punches had done too much harm to a 10-year-old. Yamato felt numb. 1 big and 1 small, Kakashi serving him alone. This misfortune was almost too much to bear. If only he'd known, he might have taken 2 more hits. Well, he would enjoy the suffering twice over. That white-haired senior would certainly never let him off. Not only Mu Yue and his group, but the allied shinobi forces who had awakened from infinite Tsukuyomi and been revived by Obito also sent birthday wishes to Naruto, the great hero. Tens of thousands of blessings spread across the battlefield. injecting new life and joy into the ruined land. Though the venue was in shambles, no one minded. Many allied shinobi were smiling. Some laughed because they were genuinely happy for Naruto. Some breathed easier to have survived such a terrifying war. Some rejoiced at victory, and some were simply infected by the happiness around them. Whatever the reason, the laughter lightened the mood. Still, some concerns lingered. The 4 Edo Tensei Hokage are all back. Konoha now effectively has 5 Hokage, the 4th Raikage said seriously. This unprecedented cooperation didn't rule out future conflict. Konoha with 5 Hokage was an intimidating military force to be watched. Compared to that, I'm more worried about the parallel world, Onoki muttered. The shinobi from other worlds seemed fine, but Mu Yue was too powerful. Six Paths Madara, godlike as he was, had been severely injured by Mu Yue in only a few moves. If Mu Yue ever led warriors from other worlds to invade, Onoki couldn't imagine who would stop him. Let's enjoy this hard-won victory first. Meiterumi exhaled and smiled, trying to calm them. Gaara had already run over to give Naruto his congratulations the moment he saw the celebration, and Tsunade had moved to stand by Senju Hashirama. Grandpa, since you've been revived, please continue to serve as Hokage. Tsunade said with a smile. She had been pushed into the role before, forced into a position she never truly desired. If a capable alternative existed, she wouldn't mind stepping down. Tsunade, what kind of talk is that? How can the Hokage's post be given up so easily? That would make the title a joke. Senju Tobirama scolded her sternly. The Hokage office relied on authority. Casual relinquishment would ken it. How about you take the role, granduncle? You're still so energetic. Tsunade teased, remembering how she had been pampered as a child of the Senju. I won't indulge your nonsense. Tobirama refused outright. He might spoil her in other ways, but matters of Hokage authority were not for jest. He could serve as an advisor at most. Tsunade, then Hiruzen-sensei? She looked to Hiruzen. Please spare me. Hiruzen tapped his wrinkled face, making it clear he was much too old for such responsibilities. His retirement and fishing lifestyle beckoned. Humph, Tsunade gave a small pout. Minato stepped forward. Lady Tsunade, good luck. He encouraged her. Konoha already had the 5th Hokage. Minato, the 4th, would gladly support her. Haha, indeed. Not listening to Hiruzen-sensei was the right choice. Jiraiya laughed heartily. Hiruzen had done his best to push Jiraiya into the Hokage seat once. Jiraiya had always had an umbrella for such reigning opportunities. Seeing Jiraiya clowning around, Tsunade smiled, remembering old moments. Jiraiya struck a pose. How about it? Don't you find me very handsome? I'm younger, after all. Your understanding of handsome is unique, Tsunade replied. Nice to meet you. I am one of the Sannin, the toad sage of Mount Myoboku. Jiraiya boomed, laughing and preening. Hello, I'm Tsunade. Please don't be the one who tries to push me into the Hokage role. Tsunade answered with mock sternness. Hello, do I need to introduce myself as well? Orochimaru asked, approaching. No need for introductions, but you seem different from what I imagined, someone observed. Based on the Allied forces' performance, he had expected Orochimaru to have defected and done terrible things. Now that Orochimaru was among them, things were clearly more complicated. Then would you like to exchange knowledge? Orochimaru smiled and raised a hand, curious, eager to learn. Though he hadn't observed much, he had enough to conclude they were not walking the same path. Why not? Orochimaru responded with a faint smile and raised his own hand. Their palms met, and chakra flowed between them. As their chakra linked, the two Orochimaru, one from this world and his counterpart from the parallel world, saw each other's memories from birth to the present. Orochimaru's face registered surprise, not because of the other's betrayal, but because the first half of their lives had been completely identical. Only when Mu Yue rose to prominence did their paths begin to diverge. Working with Mu Yue had imposed limits on the parallel world Orochimaru, but it had also opened new possibilities. The Orochimaru from this world had thrown himself entirely down the dark road, which ultimately led to his defection. He had expected many similarities between them, but not something so exact. So the only real difference between the two worlds is Mu Yue? Orochimaru murmured. He didn't yet know whether Mu Yue's uniqueness stemmed from Mu Yue herself or whether that uniqueness had given birth to Mu Yue. Either way, Mu Yue was extraordinary, far more so than the so-called Otsutsuki. After all, Kaguya Otsutsuki existed in both worlds, but Habsheng Mugetsu existed in only one. Your luck was better than mine, Orochimaru commented. 30 years of identical paths proved that their talents and natures were the same. It was only Mu Yue's presence in the other world that diverted that Orochimaru's life. For him, Mu Yue's aid, though constraining, was preferable to the single-minded pursuit of immortality. Thank you for your experience, the parallel Orochimaru replied with a faint smile. His research was no worse than the others, but different choices had led them to different projects. The world Orochimaru had lived longer in and had indulged in more unfettered study, so his breadth of experience was greater. And thank you for yours, the other Orochimaru chuckled. He had lost some research time, but seeing another possible life for himself was no real loss. It had been enlightening. Seems you both gained a lot, Kabuto asked, curiosity bright in his eyes. Fresh from Izanami and then thrust back into the battlefield, Yakushi Kabuto wanted to help, but Madara and Kaguya were too strong. He had only played a small part. Can you tell me anything about... Sorry. One Orochimaru shook his head. There's nothing about you in my memories. In the parallel world, your director never returned to Root. Kabuto's stunned silence gave way to a smile. He hadn't returned to Root, nor had Yakushi no, so they weren't marked for mutual destruction by Danzo's conspiracies. For Kabuto, that was the best news to come from the other world. Mu Yue, when are you going back? Naruto asked after a while. Orochimaru and the others also looked to Mu Yue. She had mastered the interworld travel and was leading them. When to return would be her call. The 14th, Mu Yue decided after thinking a moment. We'll rest here for a few days before leaving. We'll stay 4 more days? Great. Ichiraku ramen's on me, Mu Yue, Naruto said, grinning. He wasn't sure Mu Yue's world had Ichiraku, but even if it did, this world's ramen had over a decade more refinement. I need to step away from the group a while, Mutsuki leader, Mu Yue, to pick something up in the land of rivers, Sasori said. He intended to reclaim Edo Sasori's legacy. I also need to leave for a bit, Kakuzu added. He wanted to recover Edo Kakuzu's money and set it aside, perhaps to found a charitable organization, a way to make something meaningful in this world for his own sake. I want to visit the Land of Rain, Nagato said after a beat. He planned to go with Sasori to the Land of Rivers first, which was on the way, then travel on to the Land of Rain. You can go wherever you want, as long as you regroup at Roran before the evening of the 14th, Mu Yue replied. Celebi's power couldn't transport so many people between worlds at once. They'd rely on the Roran Dragon Vein for the crossing. Everyone nodded, and those with plans left to carry them out. Those without plans started thinking about what to do during the next 4 days in the parallel world. 4 days is a lot. I care. And use shadow clones to help those in need, Obito thought. He still carried the 6 paths Obito's eyes, a dying gift accepted though the original 6 paths Obito had perished. Obito owed the world something. Having once released the 9 tails and caused untold pain, he couldn't erase the past, but he could try to help now. Where's your sword? Kakashi asked his counterpart, eager to spar in swordsmanship, and then he remembered. The other Kakashi didn't seem to have used White Fang in battle. You mean White Fang? The other Kakashi replied, embarrassed. It broke when I fought the Iwagakure Shinobi. Kakashi frowned. White Fang was a memento of his father. He regretted its loss. He hadn't expected the counterpart's White Fang to have been broken, too. You didn't recover it? At the time the situation was urgent. There wasn't time. That's one reason you gave up swordsmanship? Kakashi asked. That was part of it. The other Kakashi sighed. After acquiring 6 paths Obito's Sharingan, his Chidori's weaknesses were mitigated and he had felt duty-bound to make more use of the Sharingan, in memory of the sacrifice. Gradually he'd pursued the path of Sharingan-centered combat. Kakashi considered, then produced his White Fang longsword from a scroll. He gathered natural energy, entered a lightning-breathing sage mode, and condensed chakra on his finger, slicing the longsword neatly in 2. My White Fang broke once as well, he said. Out of habit, I kept the broken blade and reforged it into a tachi. I'll give you half of it. Forge it into a short blade or keep it as a memento. It's up to you. I just hope this is the last time it breaks. He handed the half blade over. Thank you. I'll take good care of it, the other Kakashi said earnestly. He couldn't become a pure swordsman like the Kakashi who'd trained more, but he could practice and make swordsmanship one of his tools. If you want to repay me, Kakashi added, seeing his counterpart's dilemma, then train with me. The offer landed hard and true. Kakashi knew the other tended to neglect training, and as a mirror of him, he wanted to spark that discipline. All right, the other agreed, touched. Do you know Chidori? Kakashi asked. In a flash, the other Kakashi raised his hand. A bright, purple lightning gathered and hummed with destructive power. Kakashi took it in, dazzled. His counterpart seemed complete in many ways. The only thing left to offer was training. Young me, shall we have a sweat-drenched fight later? Might Guy asked his young counterpart eagerly. Guy's youth, physique, and taijutsu were formidable, exactly the sort of opponent the older guy wanted. Teacher Kai is so young, Tenten exclaimed when she saw Might Guy and the others. Nara Shikaku had broadcast some news, so though she hadn't spoken to the parallel world Shinobi, she had an inkling of who they were. They're my proud disciples. Want to test their skill? Guy asked, eyes bright when Tenten and Neji approached. They certainly look energetic, but why aren't they wearing combat uniforms like Lee? Guy said, fond of his protege. He would have taken Lee as his disciple when he came of age, no question. Besides Teacher Kai and Lee, nobody likes those tight suits, right? Tenten grumbled. She didn't mind snug outfits, but she absolutely refused to wear that garish green. Neji didn't speak, but his expression made his agreement clear. After such a long war, the logical response would have been ceremonies to commemorate the fallen and celebrate the victory. Yet because Six Paths Obito's reincarnation had prevented allied shinobi casualties, there were no dead to mourn. The five Kaja decided there was no need to rush celebrations either. Everyone needed to rest first after the 3 days of non-stop fighting. On the way back to Konoha, Obito approached Senju Tobirama with an urgent question. Clone Uncle, your shadow clone technique has a big drawback. Can you improve it? What drawback? Tobirama asked, puzzled. The shadow clone technique was one of his best creations. Practical, easy to learn, perfect for reducing casualties by deploying clones for reconnaissance and such. It's the clone's memories, Obito explained. When a shadow clone is dispelled, its memories flow back into the original body. Couldn't you add a restriction so the original can choose whether to receive those memories or not? Tobirama was even more puzzled. What would that mean? Obito pressed on in deadpan seriousness. What if a shadow clone resented the original body and made more shadow clones to do their tests, then occasionally dispelled one to dump memories back? That would be a nightmare. Tobirama blinked. Was this still the Land of Fire's language? Shadow clones resenting their originals? Creating shadow clones to do test papers as revenge? Looking at Obito's solemn face, he began to doubt his own read on people. Add another function. The shadow clone must be absolutely loyal to the original, Naruto interjected. Tobirama looked at him, baffled. Wasn't loyalty a built-in aspect? A shadow clone was an extension of the original's consciousness. How could it harbor treacherous thoughts? You're right, Naruto, Obito agreed, and Naruto returned his thumbs up. It's very difficult and not very useful, Tobirama answered finally. Both Obito and Naruto were a little disappointed, but the matter ended there. I never thought I'd return to Konoha like this, Senju Hashirama said softly as their caravan neared the village. The familiar sights brought nostalgia. He and Uchiha Madara had poured thought into choosing Konoha's final site. Indeed, Hiruzen Sarutobi murmured, a little moved. He hadn't been able to retire peacefully while alive, but now, even at 69, he was oddly looking forward to a restful life. Tobirama smiled at his brother and student's sentiments. He, too, was happy to return to Konoha as a living person. He wondered what the village had become, whether it was still prosperous, and whether the disciples he had risked so much to save had grown into the leaders he had hoped for. Am I seeing this right? First generation, second Hokage, third Hokage, fourth Hokage, fourth Hokage. The Konoha guard at the gate muttered, staring at the 6 figures at the head of the returning force. The sight of so many familiar faces, some doubled, some unexpected, left the guards astonished. Tobirama looked at the slightly unfamiliar gate with a small, contented smile. Something's wrong. I remember Konoha being flat. Am I misremembering? Senju Hashirama muttered as he paused under the Konoha gate and surveyed the village. He frowned. The layout didn't match his memory. "It's not your memory, big brother," Senju Tobirama said. "The elevation's changed." Tobirama's smile faded. He glanced at Hiruzen Sarutobi. "When I died, Konoha didn't look like this." Hiruzen quickly stepped in. "It wasn't like this when I used the corpse reanimation seal, either," he said defensively. "There was an incident some time ago, and the village changed." Tsunade, standing nearby, flushed with embarrassment. "There were no casualties," she added bluntly, "only economic losses." Hashirama relaxed. "Good. People are more important than money." Tobirama's expression improved at the news. Tsunade gave the order to the assembled Konoha forces. "Everyone, go home and rest." It wasn't a time for celebration. Most of the ninjas clearly wanted nothing more than sleep. The crowd cheered and dispersed. Tobirama turned to Mu Yue. "This Konoha must be different from the one you know. Want to look around together?" "I was hoping to," Mu Yue replied with a smile. For him, the original world described in the novel had many things he hadn't seen. Hashirama laughed and joined them eagerly. Hiruzen, seeing his two former teachers preparing to tour the village, couldn't very well slip away. He fell in step beside them. "Dad, why don't you and brother Mu Yue go look around the village?" Naruto asked, scratching his head. Minato Namikaze had only just returned after being resurrected, and Naruto wanted to clean up the house properly for his father's homecoming. Minato smiled and agreed, and Naruto ran off to prepare. "Multiple shadow clone jutsu," Obito called as he formed the seals, sending clones in every direction to find people in need. One clone tailed Naruto. The original Obito fell in line behind Mu Yue. The rest of Mu Yue's group, except Metkai, who'd been pulled away for a sparring match, decided not to split up. They planned to stay in Konoha for 4 more days. Opportunities to tour the village with so many Hokage together were rare. "It feels like when the village was first built," Hashirama said with a nostalgic look, staring at the simple wooden buildings. "Isn't that a step backward?" Obito couldn't help but snort. Compared to Six Path City and Konoha after Mu Yue's reforms, the village did seem primitive. Tobirama's smile vanished again. "When I went to Kumogakure for negotiations, Konoha wasn't like this," he murmured, glancing at Hiruzen. Hiruzen, suddenly embarrassed, hurried to explain. "It must be because of that accident Tsunade mentioned. It wasn't like this before I died." It sounded defensive. He didn't want the blame for whatever had happened on his watch. After all, Konoha had thrived during his tenure. Tobirama's face darkened. Rebuilding the whole village and calling it a bit of an accident didn't sit well with him. "Don't be so harsh on Tsunade," Hashirama soothed. "At least Konoha still stands." He had been worried when he first heard Tsunade was the Hokage. She'd been a pampered girl to him. But her battlefield performance reassured him. She had grown into someone the village could rely on. Nearby, Utatane Koharu and Homura Mitokado noticed the commotion at the Hokage building. They'd brought some ninjas to check the gate and had just run into Tobirama and his group. Koharu frowned at the strange assortment of people before her. Tobirama's eyes narrowed as he scrutinized the two advisors. "How dare you impersonate the Hokage?" Koharu snapped. Normally she wouldn't involve herself in something so minor, but the man who looked down on her, who behaved like a senior missing for decades, offended her. Even the current Hokage respected her position. She would not tolerate being treated as an inferior. Of course, she assumed they were imposters. The second Hokage had been dead for many years. If he reappeared, it would be as an Edo Tensei spirit at best. And 2 fourth Hokage in one group? Impossible. They had to be fakes. Tobirama's pupils narrowed. Mu Yue smiled faintly. Obito fought to keep a straight face. Minato looked mildly helpless. "Take him down," Koharu ordered the nearby ninjas. Tobirama's expressionless face shifted, and his chakra flared. A pressure wave swept outward. Nearby houses shuddered from the force. The Konoha ninjas halted, tense and cowed. Koharu and Homura's eyes widened. Hashirama burst out laughing at the absurdity of the scene. That loosened Obito, who began laughing too, and a few others followed. Hiruzen stepped forward, wry. "It's a long story," he said, "but in short, we've been resurrected." He'd barely finished when Koharu had already called for action. She'd acted before hearing the explanation. "Tobirama, Koharu, Homura, long time no see," Tobirama said calmly as he retracted his aura. Koharu broke into a cold sweat. The resemblance, the bearing, the man before her really could be the teacher who'd sacrificed himself to cover their retreat. How could such a big thing not be reported to me? Koharu snapped inwardly at Tsunade, then forced herself to address Tobirama. I apologize, Sensei. It's wartime, and our strength is strained. I worried someone was causing trouble, and she broke off, chastened. Enough of that. Why weren't you and Homura on the battlefield? Tobirama asked with a wave. In reality, he wasn't terribly offended. The public thought they were dead, so Koharu's suspicion was understandable. Koharu glanced at Homura. Homura adjusted his glasses and answered smoothly. The front is important, but so is the village's safety. Koharu and I stayed to protect the rear. Besides, we're advanced in age. We can't endure the same intensity of frontline fighting as before. Koharu nodded inwardly. Homura's answer was well-pitched. They weren't shirking duty, but protecting the homeland, and their age explained their absence from the front. Tobirama regarded them for a moment and then hummed noncommittally. Obito muttered, "So many excuses." Despite his attempt to be quiet, Koharu heard and glared. Tobirama's next look was chilling. It felt like falling into an ice abyss. He couldn't help but wonder why his own disciples and the village he'd known seemed to be backsliding, bickering even with juniors. "Sensei, what's the situation on the front? Have we won? The troops are returning," Homura asked. "Yes, we won," Tobirama replied, withdrawing his gaze. Koharu exhaled in relief and looked at Obito with a puzzled expression. He appeared no more than 17 or 18, hardly anyone alive when Tobirama had died, so why did Tobirama care about him? "Where is Danzo? He wasn't on the battlefield, and I'm not sensing his chakra in the village," Tobirama said, activating his sensory ninjutsu. 3 of his 4 disciples were accounted for. Danzo Shimura was missing. "Danzo was killed by the rogue S-rank ninja Sasuke," Homura said, voice threaded with sorrow. "Danzo attended the 5 Kage summit as acting Hokage, was pursued by Sasuke, and fell in battle." Tobirama's expression darkened. Sasuke killed Danzo. He remembered Sasuke seeking information about Itachi from Danzo. "That Uchiha brat is trouble," he said grimly. He'd already distrusted Sasuke's talk of destroying Konoha. Learning he'd killed a Hokage, or acting Hokage, only deepened that distrust. In Tobirama's eyes, Sasuke bordered on the level of Madara. Mu Yue watched the 2 aging advisors with interest. They weren't as openly vicious as Danzo, but they'd become obstacles to Konoha's future. "At least let me say this for Sasuke," Obito stepped forward. Utane Koharu cleared her throat to scold him for disrespect, but Tobirama's earlier gaze made her think twice. Tobirama looked to Obito, waiting. "If the person Sasuke killed was Danzo Shimura, he probably didn't make a mistake," Obito said, throwing his hands up. "Danzo in our world was a monster." After the martial arts tournament, Hiruzen had published the investigation based on what Mu Yue had found, an exposé of Danzo's crimes. The reports paint Ed Danzo as the village's greatest villain since its founding, abusing his position, hoarding power and wealth, using them to grow his root organization, subjecting recruits to brutal methods that drove them to kill, and worse, abducting civilians for deadly experiments. Even Hashirama's usually kind face turned cold as Obito spoke. Hiruzen, though, hesitated. "Maybe Danzo isn't that extreme in every world," he offered carefully. "2 worlds aren't identical. We should investigate the facts." "You're right," Tobirama said. "Your Danzo may deserve whatever fate, but we shouldn't leap to conclusions. We need to investigate." He abandoned the leisurely tour. His main body headed to the Hokage building to review records while he dispatched shadow clones to follow leads. At last, Tobirama planted himself in the Hokage's chair and regarded the 2 advisors standing before him with a cold, hard stare. Damn it, how had his disciples turned into such annoyances? That Shimura brat, so inherently rotten, he should have taken him along to cover their retreat back then. No text for this chapter. Let's proceed to the next chapter. Chapter 798. Visitor from another world. Bang! Bang! On the training ground, 2 green-clad figures flashed and collided again and again, each impact sending dull thuds through the air. "These 2 have an awful lot of energy," Tenten muttered, rubbing the soreness from her arms. She had planned a day of rest, but adult Might Guy had dragged her along to watch his match against Might Guy. After all, it's Teacher Kai and Teacher Kai. Lee's eyes were glued to the fight. For someone who loved Taijutsu as much as he did, This was a match he couldn't miss. Neji watched too, expression serious. Though his path differed from theirs, he was a taijutsu specialist as well. There was still something to learn from watching the two guys spar. Boom. In the final clash, the younger, slimmer figure staggered back 8 meters. Ha! As expected of me. Metkai laughed, giving the older man a thumbs up. At 17, thanks to relentless training and the effects of the breathing technique, his taijutsu already outclassed ordinary shinobi even without using the 8 gates or the breathing technique chakra mode. Still, adult Metkai held the slight edge. That's what I wanted to hear. Adult Metkai returned the thumbs up, pride bright on his face. Metkai was far stronger than he had been at 17, and even with a decade more cultivation, the older version wasn't much weaker. The sight stoked adult Metkai's competitive fire. How could he, as Metkai, be outdone by another version of himself? Since our teachers work so hard, we need to work even harder. Lee clenched his fists, thrilled. Watching the two enthusiastic Metkais and Lee, Metkai felt moved too. Then let's work together and become the strongest, he shouted, voice full of spirit. The three embraced, the air brimming with fighting spirit. Neji, maybe we're a bit out of place here. Should we go? Tenten suggested, smiling at the 3 green figures who looked like a family. Youth is for training. Come sweat it out with us on the training ground. Adult Metkai flashed over to Tenten with a grin, showing 2 rows of white teeth. My youth was sacrificed on the battlefield. Now I want to rest, Tenten complained. Then rest after you learn a bit of training, Metkai said. He had gotten on well with adult Metkai and wanted to help his students. Tenten suspected Metkai, also primarily a taijutsu specialist, might not teach her much, but she accepted his good intentions. Under Metkai's instruction, Tenten demonstrated her specialty. She didn't have Lee's powerful body capable of opening the 8 gates, nor Neji's Byakugan and clan techniques, but she had something else, money. Ordinary shinobi had to conserve their tools. Tenten only cared about how many scrolls she could carry. She fought with a saturation of weaponry, throwing tools with perfect accuracy. Her weakness was that her tools set the limit. Without them, she was much less formidable. Since you throw so accurately, mastering the armament hockey secret technique would make you much stronger, Metkai said, stroking his chin. With armament hockey, the power ceiling of her tools and her own strikes would be raised significantly. What kind of jutsu is that? Tenten asked, curious. Like this. Metkai snapped off a branch, condensed a solid sphere of armament hockey around it, and infused it with chakra until the tip turned pitch black. He hurled the branch with a fierce whoosh at a nearby stone. Tenten watched in shock as the branch punched clean through, leaving a neat hole. My armament hockey is only average, Metkai added modestly. If Kakashi or the others used it, it'd be even more powerful. Even average is that strong. If someone masters that, they'd be terrifying, Tenten said, already imagining the possibilities. Teacher Kai, can you teach me? I'll pay you. I won't ask for free. I need to ask Teacher Mu Yue first, Metkai admitted. But I can teach you the Leaf Dragon God technique. Do you want to learn it? Leaf Dragon God was a taijutsu Metkai, had been instructed to pass down by his teacher. Tenten listened with interest, then politely declined. It wasn't quite right for her style. Lee, however, eagerly volunteered to learn. Metkai nodded and began teaching Lee the Leaf Dragon God, offering Neji some pointers along the way. The next morning, after breakfast at the hotel, Mu Yue and his group were met by Senju Tobirama and others who had come to speak with them. After the greetings, Tobirama cut to the chase. To thank you for your help, Mu Yue, Konoha's higher-ups want to erect a stone statue of you on the Hokage Rock. If you don't mind, the construction plan will be released soon. Tobirama's offer was simple, a gesture to build a relationship and give Mu Yue fame in this world. Mu Yue smiled and declined politely. Being carved into stone without the title of Hokage felt odd. A statue for all the transmigrators would be more meaningful, he thought. Then could we take a little of your time? We'd like to understand the Ninja World Alliance, Tobirama said, moving to his main point. He knew little beyond the name and the reports from Parallel World Shinobi and wanted Mu Yue's insight. Certainly. Mu Yue nodded. Even if Tobirama hadn't come, Mu Yue planned to promote a Ninja World Alliance in Naruto's world. The Otsutsuki threat, Kaguya's arrival being proof, meant more spacefaring Otsutsuki could come. That was both catastrophe and opportunity. A united ninja world would stand a better chance against such invaders than fragmented villages fighting alone. To keep things comfortable, Tobirama chose a tea house for the meeting instead of the Hokage conference room. He'd booked the place and had Ambu watching the area. The Ninja World Alliance is essentially a platform that links the entire ninja world, Mu Yue explained. It mobilizes the world's resources and power for coordinated development and defense. If only I'd thought of this during the first 5 Kaji Summit, Senju Hashirama sighed. Back then, the 5 great shinobi villages had agreed to non-aggression, but fundamental interests still caused conflict. As long as core interests are at stake, major villages won't easily compromise, Tobirama said. Forming an alliance peacefully requires many conditions. Mu Yue laid out his experience. First, there must already be a foundation of cooperation between villages. Second, a qualified leader, someone with absolute strength, prestige, and charisma, is needed to unite them. Third, sufficient external pressure helps push them together. In this world, they had an advantage. Everyone had witnessed powerful forces like the infinite Tsukuyomi and Six Paths power, which could be a unifying external pressure. Minato Namikaze suggested calling a 5 Kage summit soon. Uniting the 5 great shinobi villages first would make forming the alliance far easier. In Minato's view, Hashirama, dubbed by some as a ninja god, could fit Mu Yue's requirements as a leader. Tobirama asked how Mu Yue handled the daimyo. Reform. The ninja world doesn't need nobles controlled by daimyo, Mu Yue said bluntly. If local nobles truly possessed inheritable supernatural power, like the Otsutsuki, then Mu Yue would consider a different approach. But ordinary claims to nobility would be swept aside. There had been some resistance to these reforms, he admitted, but not much. People generally complied, rather than invite chaos or worse. He spent over 2 days sharing details, reforms, institutions, and the pitfalls to avoid. A single template wouldn't work everywhere. Each region needed careful handling. You've worked hard these past few days, Mu Yue. Why not stay a little longer and see the sights? Tobirama asked as they concluded. Maybe next time, if there's an opportunity, Mu Yue replied with a polite smile. He liked to keep to his plans and had intended to leave in 4 days unless something major happened. On the evening of their departure, the transmigration squad gathered at the Roran ruins. Many Konoha shinobi came to see them off. All 5 generations of Hokage, heir present. Brother Naruto, I'm going back. Can you call me Big Brother? Obito asked hopefully. Come visit often, Naruto chuckled. Put more time into your training, Kakashi added. It's not so bad. After all, I'm the big Kakashi, adult Kakashi said with a helpless smile. They all exchanged farewells. Tenten and the others waved to Metkai. The Hokage bowed in thanks to Mu Yue and his group for their help. Konoha's shinobi echoed their gratitude. Well then, everyone, goodbye, Mu Yue said, and gave Celebi a look. Celebi gathered spatial temporal power around everyone and then unleashed the stored dragon vein energy in a single surge. A dazzling purple light washed over them. When the light faded, Mu Yue and the others were still standing. Obito blinked and looked at the familiar ruins as confusion spread across his face. Huh? Did we not cross over at all? It feels like nothing changed. There was a spatio-temporal fluctuation just now, Mu Yue explained, narrowing his eyes. Someone else was trying to cross space-time, and their interference messed with our jump. We could have forced it, but Celebi stopped us to avoid accidents. Big Brother Mu Yue, are you sure you're okay? Can't we just go back? Naruto asked, worried. It's not a big problem. We can go back, but we'll need to stay a while longer, Mu Yue said. Celebi would recover and they could attempt the crossing again. Then, without warning, 2 figures fell from the sky above Konoha. Where is this? Dazed, Sasuke blinked into a dense green forest and felt himself falling. He adjusted his body with practiced calm and landed lightly. Why aren't Boruto and I together? He scanned the area, frowning. He and Boruto had been fighting Otsutsuki Urashiki in the Institute of Ancient Artifacts when something tore them into a strange dimension. They kept fighting there, and just as things turned against them, Urashiki had frowned, muttered something about bad luck, and the world blurred. Now Sasuke was alone in this forest. From Urashiki's reaction, this looked like an accident, not a deliberate move. If that's true, Boruto should be safe for now. Sasuke let himself breathe a fraction easier. If anything happened to Boruto, he wouldn't be able to face Naruto. He slipped up into a tree to get a better vantage and began to sweep the area. As he prepared to move, a faint sound prickled his senses. His right hand closed around the kusanagi hidden inside his black robe, and he turned. "Who are you?" A small boy sat on a nearby branch, staring at him with a curious face, an uncanny copy of Sasuke's older brother. For a moment, Itachi's face seemed to rearrange his thoughts. A flood of possibilities ran through Sasuke's head. But Sasuke had been through too much to show it on his face. He kept his voice steady. "Has no one ever told you should give your name before asking someone else's? Are you an Uchiha?" he added after a moment. The child didn't answer, but asked another question instead. Sasuke found the silence odd. If this boy knew about the Uchiha, why didn't he recognize Sasuke, the most famous Uchiha in the Shinobi world? Sasuke's eyes narrowed. "Oh, I see. Then you can keep playing here. I'm going to train." The child gave no name. For now, Sasuke's priority was Boruto. He would come back to investigate this boy later. He leapt to a higher branch, and from there he saw a town in the distance, and the Hokage rock, but with only 4 faces carved into it. Only 4? Sasuke stared. He checked his chakra reflexively. With Rinnegan and Eternal Mankyo Sharingan, falling under someone's genjutsu was nearly impossible, but he verified anyway. No illusions. The Hokage faces were really 4. A child who looked exactly like his brother. The impossible thought formed. Had he traveled back in time? It felt absurd, but the facts fit. He almost let his old hatred flare. If Danzo Shimura were responsible, he would tear into him without hesitation, but he forced himself to inhale slowly and sheathed the kusanagi. If time travel had occurred, acting impulsively could ruin the future. First things first, find Boruto. "Uncle, I'm Itachi Uchiha. Who are you?" the boy called suddenly. Sasuke paused. Being called uncle by a child who looked like his brother was surreal. He picked a name on instinct. Suigetsu. The boy brightened. "Uncle, are you a ninja?" "No." Sasuke shook his head. He wasn't a shinobi of this era. Claiming otherwise could complicate matters. After a beat, he corrected himself to the boy. "Itachi, I lied earlier. I'm not from the Uchiha clan." The boy frowned with the solemn earnestness of someone scolded. "That's not good. Lying is not good." "I admire the Uchiha ninjas, Etemda," Sasuke said quickly, inventing excuses. "I said nonsense." The boy's curiosity deepened. "Who do you admire most, Shisui ni or Obito ni?" Hearing Obito's name made Sasuke's face tighten. He did not care for that man's legacy. Before he could answer, the child's tone shifted to something oddly schoolmasterly. "Uncle, a question. Imagine you're crossing the road and see an old man who has difficulty walking. Which of the following would you do? A. Help him across the road. B. Ignore him and walk on. C. Snatch the lollipop from the old man's hand." Sasuke blinked. A question like this from a child? Who had shaped his brother this way? Itachi's eagerness now felt forced. Too much enthusiasm. Sasuke's suspicion pricked. Is my brother intentionally stalling for time? He realized Itachi was unusually talkative, almost as if buying time. "I'm sorry, Itachi. I'm busy. I'll answer later." He started to step away. The child was harmless enough, but there were bigger dangers. This era didn't have the same peace as Boruto's time. Boruto's impulsiveness could expose him as an outsider and mark him as a spy. Suddenly, another boy who looked like Itachi appeared, accompanied by a stern man and several Uchiha Jonin. They rushed in and surrounded Sasuke. At first, the boy hadn't disliked the black-robed stranger. He'd felt a strange familiarity, but when the stranger claimed to be an Uchiha, that familiarity flipped into alarm. The Uchiha were few and kept to clan territory. Any unknown Uchiha was cause for suspicion. The stranger's claim, his attempt to appear familiar, seemed like subterfuge. "Who are you? Where are you from? Why are you approaching Itachi?" Fugaku Uchiha demanded, staring Sasuke down. Sasuke felt his chest tighten at that face from his memories. The desire to hunt down Danzo flared, and he stifled it. "My name is Suigetsu. It's a misunderstanding. I was just playing a joke with Itachi." It's Suigetsu?" Fugaku's tone was skeptical. Sasuke kept his composure. "Itachi, dispel your shadow clone." Itachi formed a hand seal. As the clone vanished and its memories consolidated into the original, Itachi's expression grew puzzled. The boy's confusion made Fugaku relax slightly, but he was not convinced. Then show your identification or ninja credentials, Fugaku ordered. Sasuke didn't flinch. I'm not a shinobi here. I'm from the land of rain. Life's hard there, so I came to Konoha to perform acrobatics for a living. Fugaku raised an eyebrow. The land of rain was prospering. The claim didn't quite fit, but there were always travelers and rogues. Fugaku asked, half amused, if you're an acrobat, demonstrate something. Sasuke nodded and produced a red ball from his sleeve, tossing it high into the air. At that moment, Fugaku lunged, trying to grab him. Sasuke instinctively dodged the sudden move and realized he'd been baited. Fugaku had attacked. That kind of sneak test was revealing. He actually moved, Fugaku said, narrowing his eyes. The surrounding Uchiha Jonin spread and activated their Sharingan. Don't let him escape. Sasuke's temples throbbed. He could have fought his way out in his prime, but his chakra was nearly spent. The battle with Urashiki had drained him, and Urashiki had siphoned some away. He had only the tiny reserves he'd managed to refine. These were his family and clan members in front of him. A fight would only make everything worse. If he resisted, the village would declare him a criminal, and Anbu might swarm. Better to surrender and wait for an opportunity. He relaxed his shoulders and raised his hands in a placating gesture. This really is a misunderstanding. They frisked him. Nothing but the robe and the kusanagi tucked away until the Jonin located the blade and removed it. Fugaku nodded at the confiscation. Take him. They led him to the police interrogation room. Fugaku sat opposite and stared, calculating. Tell me your true name, where you come from, and why you're in Konoha. Suigetsu from the land of rain. I was curious about Konoha, Sasuke said, altering his story a touch. He'd shown some skill, and performing as a pretext felt thin. I got tired of war. I'm no longer a shinobi of the rain, and I'm wanted, so I've been hiding. Fugaku's expression hardened. His skepticism was obvious. The rain hadn't seen open war for some time. The world had changed since the Fourth Great Ninja War. Rogues existed, of course, but Fugaku found Sasuke's explanations inconsistent. Are you mocking me? Sasuke didn't bother to argue. Fugaku's distrust would only get him detained. Fugaku decided to starve him of answers for the night. Lock him up. We'll interrogate again tomorrow. Sasuke watched Fugaku's cold expression with something like a distant, private ache. He'd never seen that side of his father before, such rigid certainty. He had to bide his time. Later, the cell door clanged open. Mr. Sasuke, why are you still locked up? A familiar voice complained. Boruto, having finally tracked him down, leaned against the bars with a scowl. He'd expected Sasuke to be competent and reliable. He hadn't expected him to be quietly arrested and thrown in a cell. It must be Mu Yue's son, Kushina muttered to herself. Ouch. Boruto hit the ground hard, landing face first on the grass before he could correct his posture. He sat up, rubbing his slightly reddened cheek and scanning the area. Where am I? And where are Sasuke and that Otsutsuki guy, Urashiki? He checked his hands. Only the small turtle he'd clutched desperately was left. Sasuke and Urashiki were gone. The surroundings looked like a park. Huh. Still in Konoha, then. Thought I'd been tossed into some other dimension. He hurried out of the park and saw a ninja wearing a Konoha forehead protector. Relief flooded him. If this really was Konoha, things were simpler. Return the turtle, and Sasuke would know what to do. He fished the turtle into his bag and set off, but the district felt unfamiliar. After a few wrong turns, he asked a red-haired kunoichi for directions. The Cultural Relics Research Institute? She repeated, scratching her head. The term sounded vaguely familiar, but she couldn't place it. Yes, she pointed uncertainly to the north. That way, I think. Thanks, Boruto said and started north. He glanced back after a few steps. There was something about the red-haired woman that tugged at his memory. Why does she look so familiar? He muttered. He couldn't pin it down, so he dismissed the feeling and kept going. Kushina watched his retreating figure. Blonde hair and blue eyes, he was a little like Naruto. Could he be? She narrowed her eyes, intrigued, and followed at a distance. Konoha wasn't that unfamiliar to her. It was odd that some corners felt wrong. After wandering and growing more uneasy, Boruto slipped into a dark alley, chakra to his feet, and flashed up onto a rooftop to get a better view. He searched for the Hokage faces carved into the cliff. Only 4 faces stared back at him. Warning, warning. The turtle in his bag spoke in a mechanical voice. Boruto pulled it out. Did you do this? Where did Sasuke and Urashiki go? Time-space transfer was interfered with by an unknown time-space power, resulting in a significant deviation in the landing point. This is an unknown time-space. Please exercise extreme caution, the turtle reported. Do you mean this is past Konoha? Boruto asked. My database has no information on this time-space, the turtle replied. I cannot be certain. Then where are Sasuke and Lord Urashiki? Boruto demanded. Because the transfer was interfered with, I cannot confirm their exact situation. According to database information, they will also arrive in this time-space with a possible time error of no more than 20 years. Boruto stared. 20 years? That was terrifying. You said no more than 20 years? What's the actual estimate? Calculations indicate the error should be within half a month, the turtle answered. Finish your sentences in one go. You scared me to death. Boruto jabbed the turtle's shell. He couldn't imagine being stuck alone in an unfamiliar time for 20 years. Next are precautions for time-space transfer and encountering accidents. Please listen carefully and strictly follow them, the turtle continued. Wait, what exactly are you? An accomplice of Otsutsuki Urashiki? Boruto asked, examining the unremarkable little creature. I am the time-space movement treasure plow. I do not have the concept of an accomplice, it said. Because of the unexpected arrival in an unknown time-space, for safety reasons, you should avoid communicating with others unless absolutely necessary and under no circumstances reveal your identity. Boruto went speechless. Live like a hermit? What are the precautions? 1. You must not reveal matters from the future. 2. You must not... Why so many rules? Can you take us back? Boruto interrupted. Return is possible after your chakra replenishes. Finally, act cautiously and pay attention to safety, Plow answered, then drew into its shell and went silent. Boruto poked it, no response. He pocketed the turtle and slipped down from the rooftop. He had to find Sasuke. There was no way to know if Sasuke had arrived yet, but wandering was better than nothing. This place felt like Konoha's past. Same architecture, the 4 Hokage faces, just off in subtle ways. He passed a much smaller Ichiraku ramen than he remembered. Did I point the wrong way? He grumbled. After nearly 2 hours of searching the main district with no sign of Sasuke, panic crept in. If Urashiki arrived first and found Sasuke, Boruto shuddered. Fighting Urashiki alone was not an option. He'd been searching for another hour and grown hungry. No Raibaga shops either. Does this era not have Raibaga? He muttered, kicking pebbles in frustration. You're not from our time, are you? Boruto looked up. The red-haired kunoichi he'd asked earlier was standing there. No, I just didn't want to go there myself, he said automatically, keeping the plow's warning in mind. He couldn't tell her too much. How did you? Kushina began. Boruto was about to play dumb, but remembered Plow's strict orders and quickly backpedaled. What nonsense. I was asking why there's no Rabagog sold around here. Kushina smiled. She'd been suspicious because of some of Boruto's features, but after trailing him she was certain this boy wasn't from their time. Whether he was from a parallel world or the future, she wasn't sure. You look like you're about 12 or 13, she said. I could have someone check the recent graduate lists. Auntie? Boruto blanched when she used that form of address. He hurriedly adjusted. Sister? That is. He shuffled on the ground and corrected himself. That's better. Kushina's chakra flickered and her hair floated slightly. No point pretending. What's your name and when did you come from? Boruto mouthed a name and then clamped down. I can't say. Kushina cocked her head. You don't know or you don't want to say? I can't say. He kept repeating the line like a mantra. Kushina thought for a moment. Your mother, no need to tell me who she is, but is she from the Vortex clan? Boruto shook his head. He stayed tight-lipped. The turtle had warned him relatives were an especially sensitive subject. If anything happened to his family, it might erase them entirely. Kushina mulled it over. If he was from another world, fine. If he was a future ninja, that implied terrifying anomalies. She'd follow up. You seem to be looking for someone. Did you come with anyone? Yes, but I'm not sure if he's in Konoha right now, Boruto said, keeping it vague. Kushina offered a simple solution. I'll have Minato check for you. He's the Hokage. He can dispatch missions and locate people faster than you wandering. Boruto inwardly thanked her. If this was the 4th Hokage era, Minato's resources would help. He kept his mouth shut about Sasuke. He couldn't risk revealing family ties. Kushina gave him a hand up. Boruto hesitated, then took it. As they turned a corner, he tried to bolt, chakra flaring to escape, but a chain suddenly shot out, binding him. He yanked and strained, but the chain held fast. "What is this ninjutsu?" he complained. "You trying to run off?" Kushina asked, annoyed. Boruto blinked at the Ichiraku ramen sign nearby. He'd expected an interrogation room or some research institute, not a ramen shop. Kushina had dragged him straight into Ichiraku. "At a ramen shop, of course you eat ramen," she said to the owner Tucci. "One large pork bone miso chashu for him." Boruto was baffled. He'd been discovered as a temporal oddity, and yet she treated him to lunch. When the bowls arrived, Kushina tucked in with gusto. Boruto found himself strangely seeing Naruto in her, the way she ate, the warmth. And for a moment, he wondered if he was hallucinating. He shoved the thought aside and dug in. After all the searching, he was starving, and the noodles tasted especially good. After finishing, Kushina led him to a quiet park bench. "Who is your father?" she asked again. Boruto shook his head stubbornly. He wouldn't say. The warnings echoed in his mind. "You don't know or you don't want to say?" she pressed. "I can't say," he repeated. Kushina tapped her chin, thinking it through. At first, she'd assumed this blonde boy was an outsider from another world, but now, she wasn't sure. He'd recognized her immediately, but still refused to say anything, which was suspicious. "You look for someone. Did you come with a companion?" "Yes." Boruto nodded again. He kept his mouth closed. Kushina's expression softened a little. "I'll have Minato help find him." Boruto let out a quiet breath of relief. Minato's reach would be invaluable. Later, he learned that Sasuke had actually been located through precisely that process. Minato issued inquiries and had the police force notified. Sasuke had been taken in by the authorities when his transfer landed him in a forest and he'd been disoriented. He'd been careless and got detained. "Mr. Sasuke, how did you get locked up?" Boruto complained to him later. "Bad luck." "A small mistake," Sasuke said calmly. He'd landed in a forest and had no clear idea if he'd traveled through time. That confusion made him vulnerable, and even a genius like Itachi could find a weakness if the target showed one. "It doesn't matter," Sasuke added. "Even if you hadn't come, I'd have left and come to find you." A low growl rumbled through the visiting room. Boruto glanced at Sasuke and tried to hold back a laugh. Sasuke sat expressionless, as always. Boruto offered, barely able to keep his amusement down, "Let me take you to eat." Sasuke's face didn't change.